working, labor 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 working.
Hey, give him Donald, Donald. I wondering who taught Donald, Donald. I wondering who taught who. Give them galagalang dang dang, galagalaga, galagalang dang dang. Oh boy. When you in a game, the rules remain the same. One team to lose, one team to win. If ever you lose, you go home and dress your bruise. Come back again in another game. Hey, O'Donnell, O'Donnell, you remind me of he. O'Donnell, O'Donnell, swear you both are family. Hey. When you storm the capital building, then inside your bunker hiding, it's the same thing Uncle would do. When you inside violence, then claim your innocence, it's the same thing Uncle would do. Hey, O'Donnell, O'Donnell, you brought back so much memory. O'Donnell, O'Donnell, it's like you're patterning and we. Same thing Uncle would do. When you broke and burn it up, same thing Uncle would do. When you push and mash it up, same thing Uncle would do. Lord, Donald, oh, Donald, I want to know who taught who. Donald, Donald, oh, I want to know who taught who. Give me Angalang dang dang, bang bang galang dang lege, bang bang galang dang dang. Lord, dang dang dang. Blaming world police in everyone business. Yes, you care police, your stinking business. The world look with awe as you rage your war. And like a hacksaw, you hacked through the law. Hey, O'Donnell, O'Donnell, your planning was strategic. O'Donnell, O'Donnell, you make lawmakers panic, right? When you storm the capital building, then inside the bunker hiding, it's the same thing Uncle would do. When you inside violence, then you claim your innocence, same thing Uncle would do. Hey, O'Donnell, O'Donnell, you brought back so much memory. O'Donnell, O'Donnell, it's like you're patterning and we. Same thing Uncle would do. When you block and burn it up, same thing Uncle would do. When you push and mash it up, same thing Uncle would do. Lord, Donald, Donald, oh, I want to know who is who. Donald, Donald, oh, Donald, I want to know who taught who. Give me Angalanga, 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 Angalanga. Oh yeah. Give me. If I didn't know, I would say you both were bro. Same persona, crackers of fire, hiding in the back while you mob attack. And like a coward, waiting for reward. Aye. O'Donnell, O'Donnell, you hurt your own people. O'Donnell, O'Donnell, for that you are culpable. Oh, O'Donnell, oh. When you storm the capital building, then inside the bunker hiding, it's the same thing Uncle would do. When you inside violence, then you claim your innocence, it's the same thing Uncle would do. Hey, O'Donnell, O'Donnell, you brought back so much memory. O'Donnell, O'Donnell, it's like you take your pattern and we. Same thing Uncle would do. When you block and burn it up, same thing Uncle would do. When you push and break it up, same thing Uncle would do. Donald, Donald. dang laga. Bang bang dalang dang die. Bang bang dalang dang laga. Lord, get them back back banana. Still landing.
Today we walk forward into the future. A future that for generations we have talked about.
Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Iscariot called the Wednesdays a signing of proud moment.
After today, the airport will begin to rise out of the ground. Then from the ground to the air. And I give you the solemn assurance that planes will land here, direct from Europe and the United States of America in 2025.
Yes, we are getting the enlightener. We got to build a better place, a better country. Having a change of heart. Rome never built in one day, neither built in 2 days. It takes some time to build Dominica like this. But because of greed and jealousy, free men want progress immediately. That is why this country in jeopardy. But if we see it and we realize, and then we analyze, it takes time to build up our country. Build my country, we got to build my nation. I believe in prosperity, and I'm crying for unity. Come on and build our country, build our nation. I believe in prosperity, and I'm crying for unity. We got to make this nation a better place. Yeah. The politician parasite always sit here and criticize every good work Dr. Scary do in this country. Men with wrong philosophy, different mentality, working hard to put down my country. But if we see it and we take a stand, and then we understand it take time to build up my country. Build my country, we got to build my nation. I believe in prosperity, and I'm crying for unity. Come on and build our country, build our nation. I believe in prosperity, and I'm crying for unity.
The construction project will be executed in 5 phases, valued at just over $1 billion Eastern Caribbean dollars.
I love my country with all my heart, but them politicians want to carry the parties like they want to keep me in the dark. But if we journey right back to the start, we'll find things we never got. So give thanks for all that we have got. Build my country, build my nation. I believe in prosperity, and I'm crying for unity. Come on and build this country. Let's build our nation. I believe in prosperity, and I'm crying for unity. This is the enlightener, being up Gregory Joseph. Big respect every time.
And earthworks shall commence before the proverbial cock crows 3 times, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Build my country, build my nation. I want to say a special good evening and welcome to all our many listeners wherever you are listening across Dominica to the north, south, east, and west coast of the beautiful Nature Island, and the folks listening in St. Lucia, St. Martin, Anguilla, St. Thomas. I want to say a special good evening to all the folks who are listening in the United States and Canada. Of course, all the folks are in Guadeloupe and Martinique. Ça qu'a fait. Oswell, alors, moi, les souhaiter autres bonsoir. Yes, want to say a special welcome to all the folks who are also joining us on the Kyrie FM Facebook page. A special good evening to all of you, wherever you are across Dominica and throughout the world, joining us on the Kyrie FM Facebook page. It's always a pleasure knowing that you all are there with us every night. Yes, whenever we are here on the next level. It is indeed another Tuesday evening right here in the Commonwealth of Dominica, and no doubt it is another day when we heard another piece of sad news. So I want to take the opportunity as I begin tonight's program to extend, yes, deepest sympathy there to the Mr. Patrick Roland John. Yes, a family up there in Kenfield, Desiree and Nairi and all the others. Want to wish you all God's blessing as you all go through this moment of loss of your dad, Nairi. Of course, it's a moment in time when we are, never expected, but it does come anyway. And I know, of course, PJ, man. Yeah, man, big up to PJ and family there. He was a guy who went through quite a bit in his lifetime. Lots of experience. Served with the Dominica Labour Party. A fellow who ran St. Joseph even after coming from jail and winning his seat. PJ was a very powerful guy in his time. But he played his role and served his country like many others in the past and has departed to the other side. So we want to extend our deepest sympathy here to the family and friends and to hope that, that God will continue to give them that strength and the desire as they go through this moment of loss there in the family. Also want to big up Sonia. Yes, Sonia, my dear Sonia, who lost her son as well, of course, over the course of the couple of days there over the weekend there. Very sad news. I know how Sonia must be feeling. Definitely when you have your child and, growing up lovely, that's the last piece of news you want to come to you as a parent. But, when it happens, there is not much we can do to change the hands of the clock. We cannot reverse it. However, we have to accept what has happened and move forward. So, Sonia, I want to pray for you and ask God to guide you, protect you, my dear. You cannot replace his life, but he'll always be in your memory and many others. Let's pray for him as he depart on the side of the earth. Yes, the new side. The side some of us haven't been there, so we can't tell what it's like. But it is definitely a sad moment, and I know it's just something that no one expected. But while I say this, I want to send out a message to all the biker boys in Dominica. There are many of you who have your motorcycles and you have your motorcycles, whatever it may be, whether 125, 600, 500, 250, whatever it is, I want to just send out a message to your guys that, please, fellas, when you all are going out, drive carefully, man. Don't race too much. You know what I mean? And kindly wear some kind of protective gear. I think it's important that you all wear a helmet, especially when going on these long rides. Crossing the country and going wherever you all are going. It's just wear it because it can save your life. I remember I had a motorcycle accident myself, and had it not been for my crash helmet, I would have died. Period. I would have died on that accident. I went unconscious for maybe some 45 minutes. Got up after, only broke a toe. But what saved me was my crash helmet that I had wear on that day. And so, yes, when you're young and you're growing up, you get to get involved in riding motorcycle, and it becomes a very nice thing and something that you somewhat enjoy. But, getting into an accident without your crash helmet, your head can take a lot of blows, and especially when riding fast. I was driving down on Sunday, Upper Kenfield, and I literally had to slow down, to allow the motorcycles to pass because they were coming up in such fire, up the hill. And I was saying to myself, why are these guys driving so fast? So I really want to say to them tonight, your lives are important, and it's important to you, your family, your children, and, be more responsible if 10 of all you riding somewhere right at a reasonable speed that everybody can follow, you know, those that in front don't go too fast, because free pass me with a kind of a speed. The next thing I know, another three coming in the corner and they can't even drive right, bend the corner on their side because they're so fast. They have to bend it on the opposite side. And, you know, I have to slow down and literally stop to let them pass. And not everybody do the same thing. So you know, just one person you have to get collide with on the bike, and the next thing you know, serious things can happen. So I really want to urge our biker boys. You know, there are quite a few of you all know. I mean, lots of bikes in the country. Please, guys, you know, be more responsible when going out together. Drive at a moderate speed that, you know, all you can be together and get to the destination together. And don't drive too fast and leave others behind. Not everybody just as strong as the other riding the bikes, you know. So sometimes you get this kind of accidents because everybody's racing to meet each other. Please, I beg all you, you know, and be careful as we move. The roads are lovely now, and driving seems like fun, and riding seems like fun. But, you know, it can leave some really sad stories behind. So, wear you protective gears. Please do that, and especially when going so far. And always try to stay together with each other. Not like how I saw that the riding was going on Sunday going up Roger there. You know, the fellas were too far apart, too fast, and you have your ladies on board. It can be, you know, I just felt it. I was not on the bike. I was just driving my vehicle on the road. But I felt the seriousness of it. And I felt tonight I had to say that. And I do hope that you all will just heed and take some advice on this, because the crash helmets does save lives. So please, wear your crash helmet. If you don't have one, man, get one. You know, it's for your own good. At least wear the helmet. Make sure you have that helmet. The head is a very sensitive part of the body. And when you get out of that motorcycle, is maybe one of the areas of your body that get in the blow the first time. All right? Want to just say that to you all. Yes, let's take a few of your calls, though, as we get into tonight's program. Good evening. Call on the local line.
Good evening, Simeon.
Yes, good evening.
I believe the government should make it a law. When you're riding a motorcycle, you must have a helmet. Because what I try to understand, and I cannot understand yet, is when you get an accident, is you getting what you get in.
That's right.
Not somebody getting it for you.
Right.
So you should wear your helmet.
Right.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Good night, sir.
Good night to you. Yes, and I do believe that there are regulations that requires when you have motorcycles. I know the police have in the past been trying to enforce this legislation. I'm sure there is legislation towards that already. Caller, good evening on the local line.
Good night to you, Simeon.
Good evening, my brother.
That's the mobile man, labor power, my brother.
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Rosa South, my brother.
Yes.
I want to say especially good night to my doctor, and many doctors carried, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
The Prime Minister of Dominica and his family.
Yes.
And also I want to say good night to my pirate, Shikra Lockup Hippolyte.
Mm-hmm.
Desiree Eggleston, good night to you. These people working in the office very hard. And Miss Lucille Thomas, Innocent Amy, Omara, all these ladies, you know, work there, you know. Good respect for the mobile man, and big claps, man, Saber, to me, man. See me on in the office and mobile boy with us hear you and going, and oh, I just get it.
Yes, sir.
I say, oh, I just get it. Sisters in the office, I was been there. I come out in the belly of the incompetence. So I, the mobile man, been there a long time.
Yes, sir.
And I getting greater and better than ever, because my parents, she can record it. I want her to stay there for 10 more years and more. Good night to you and your mommy, Debbie, in all house. Hi there. And I there with your daughter and the people in the Rosa South. Simeon.
Yes, sir.
I want to say many thanks to all the supporters of the workers, you know. I cannot call them incompetent, because they say, mobile boy, one thing you good. Always got that blasting Lennox Clinton like that. But I said, I come for the head and the tail, Joshua Francis, my brother. These fellas on them there, my brother, you're missing me bad. But, Simeon, let me tell you something, Simeon. It's other turns and twists on the other side, my brother. Talking about COVID-19, they don't know what to talk about. They forgot international airport to go block airport because dog pass going to strike no they're on COVID saying the virus killing so many people. What sort kind of incompetent people? But Martin trying to tell the people is that and what not, but not, you know, you go to know. But sometimes you not. You just condone blessing nonsense too much. That blasting. You and I always together, my brother. You know that. Been hard with the incompetence, but let me tell you something, brother. When it comes for the government, I support my brother. My brother, you always talking nonsense, and you see how you just talk about your criminal nonsense shit. We doesn't talk this thing on Cairo FM, my brother. And not condoling them things too much, my brother. I don't want someone will take you to court talking about that you walking with your mask, sometimes just walking and you don't know. My nonsense, my brother. They want to convince the people, my brother, what the government is doing. There's no virus, nothing in the island. My brother, you all just getting it all on the mobile, man. There to all you cement, bye-bye.
Anyway, bye mobile. I tell you, man, it's 29 minutes moving after the hour of 8 o'clock there. We got quite a bit to talk about tonight, but just take one or two calls. Caller, good evening on the local line.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, Rosal Central.
Yes, my dear.
I want to first, my deepest condolences to my friend, Sonia Felix. Oh, it was heartbreaking yesterday when I saw Sonia yesterday morning. But and her son Chris, oh, very respectable boy, you know. But God gives and He takes, and you know she has to be strong. But we are there, Roseau Central. We are there to support her. Very, very, very loving girl, people's person. And then on the other side, when somebody dies, and again, she has a political affiliation with the Labour Party. Why are you all bringing in an accident with a child and you all are rejoicing? Why? Why are they doing that? All on Facebook, all different dirty comments, you know, and whatever. But again, that's what they are. According to Daryl, just show me who you are, and I'll tell you. You know, they are that type of people. You know, that's not nice. And I want to express sympathy to Desiree on the passing of Patrick John.
Yes.
Okay, on my condolences, and they said she's in the hospital with a broken ankle. So I wish her speedy recovery. What a time! God doesn't give you more than you can bear.
I know.
Okay, so I am there, and hello to my my pal rep and PM, everybody, and all of Roseau Central.
Indeed.
I'm listening to you all.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you, my dear.
Right.
Thank you. Do have a wonderful evening yourself. On the overseas line, they call a good evening to you.
See me, boy.
Yes, brother.
Your partner, Guada.
Yes, Guada.
Hey, my Guada. Anytime things happen, somebody die and is on labor side, workers always rejoice. And their leader doesn't stop them. Well, you know what they're jealous? They're jealous of something, you know why? But they're jealous? Labor car travail.
All the time. Yes, I got a big up there. Labor car travail. On the local line, they call a good evening. Good evening. Local line. All right, caller, you got to try this number again. Not sure what's wrong with your telephone there, but definitely and coming through there. Let's see if we can get this call again there. It's 8 for the free call. Good evening on the local line.
Yeah, good evening to me.
Hi, good evening.
What's up?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, long I do call you.
Yes.
I would like to say good evening to my parent, Lady Catherine Daniel, and Prime Minister, and his family, my mother in St. Joseph, Cornelia, my family at home, and I'd like to sympathize with Sonia. I would like to tell Sonia accept my sympathy, and God does give you what you will bear, just be strong.
Yes.
And Desiree, my sympathy to Desiree too, because my friend, she know who my friend from Collier.
Yes, yes.
When she hear my voice, she'll know.
Right.
So I'd like to sympathize with both of them.
All right, yeah.
You just tell them hold strong.
Indeed.
God is there with them.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Thank you, my dear.
Yes.
Thank you for your call there. On the overseas line there, good evening on the overseas line.
Good evening, Simeon.
Hi, good evening, my brother.
I want that glasses, boy.
I'll have to post one for you.
That glasses make you look sharp, boy. Hey, I want to shout up my mom and my sister in one. Good night, mommy. Good night, sister. Simeon.
Yes.
I want to know if they have a school where they just teach people in Dominica to be bad-minded.
You have one on the UWP side.
I have to be, because I cannot understand how somebody will die and you're rejoicing about that.
Yes.
Because when death come at our door, it doesn't tell you it's UWP or Labour, you know.
Not at all.
And I want to tell Matt, if he forget where he was before, for him to have people calling to rejoicing about somebody dead, and they forget where they was before.
Boy, I tell you.
That minister that go over, what is the doctor name that the Prime Minister sent, Matt Nick?
Sam Christian.
Sam Christian. It was how much hours in the morning they called the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And now you're rejoicing because you're not somebody not on your side, and you're rejoicing their child dead. Man, I'm telling you. But Simeon,
yes.
You know that thing again. 15,000 people vote for them people, you know. That's a problem we have in Dominica, you know. 15,000 people vote for UWP. So I want to know if they have a blindness over their eyes or their ears, they're deaf. For them to see what's going on.
Yes.
Anyway, Snake called the election in St. Lucia.
Yes.
Let's see what's going on. Have a nice night.
Yeah, man, my brother. Take it easy there. Thank you for calling there. Yeah, man, I know. I don't know. There is nothing to rejoice. I mean, you know, death is something that comes to all of us at some point in time. There is nothing to rejoice about that. We have to sympathize with each other over that. I mean, those who sit down and laugh over it, worthy unto them, you know. Good evening on the local line. Good evening. All right, we seem to have lost you there. Those who sit down and rejoice over the loss of someone's loved one simply because of political reason, you know, I mean, when they meet with God, they'll answer to that. Caller, good evening on the local line.
Yes, Rosa South speaking.
Yes, Rosa South.
I want to say a special condolence to Masquerade Sonia Felix on the passing of her son. I just want to tell her, hold on strong. God give, God take. Today is ours, tomorrow shall be somebody else. We never know when we're going. That is the debt we have to pay.
Yeah.
Whether you're young, whether you're old, that is the debt we have to pay. So whoever want to rejoice on somebody's death, I say woe unto them, yes, Simeon.
So I say it too.
Yeah, I say woe unto them. So today is ours, tomorrow shall be theirs.
Yes.
And I also want to say condolence to the Prime Minister that bring them because they're independent. I just want to say family hold strong and just take it easy. God give us, God take us. Simeon, tomorrow I talking to you there tonight, and tomorrow you might just hear I gone. So it is. That's all that we have to pay.
Well, you know it is already.
Whilst we are alive, we just have to give God thanks.
We have to be prepared. You know, the Bible tells us it comes like a thief in the night, eh?
Yeah, we just have to give God thanks and praise. That is why we have to live good with all man, live peaceable with all mankind.
Yes,
I listen to Simeon.
Yes, my brother.
I'll call back.
All right, there. Yeah, man. One love there. I'm telling you. Oh, yes. You know, things happen. Happen. All right, there. It's it for the day. Let's get some O'Donnell there, and we will get into our discussion here tonight.
Hey, give him. Turn alone. Donald, Donald, I wondering who talk who. Get them. Galagalang dang dang. Galagalaga. Galagalang dang dang. Boy. When you knock him, the rules remain the same. Want him to lose, want him to win. If ever you lose, you go home and dress your bruise. Come back again in another game. Hey, Donald O'Donnell, you remind me of he. Donald O'Donnell, swear you both a family.
Yes. Let's take this call. The telephones are still going. Take it two of your calls again. Call, good evening on the local line.
Good evening, Timia.
Hi, good evening.
I would like to say condolences to my leader in City Division long time ago, Sonia Felix, on behalf of her son. And he was a very nice guy. We'll miss him. We'll miss him a lot. He was a very nice child. And it's coming from his Pastor Samuel in that festival.
All right.
Say good night to my Auntie Irma, to my best friend Tessa.
Indeed. All right there. Thank you, my dear. Yeah, man, want to shout out DJ Boons and the guys down there in Kenfield, VN. How you doing there? Nice seeing you guys. Of course, all the folks always listening in Kenfield, Roger, Mondaniel, Massac, Maho, Wano, Despo. I want to say a special big up to folks in Campbell Road. Of course, not forgetting my good friend there, Mr. Moise. How are you this evening there? A special good evening there to Mr. Ian Monroe and family there. My Flossie, good evening to you, Annette Bates, and all the folks in your Labour Party, folks all over Dominica. I want to say a special big up to you all. Some of you say, Simeon, you don't call my name. I don't always remember to call everybody's name, but I do want to say good evening to all of my fellow Laborites. There's all the guys up there in Daly's, the HN family, and all the other folks up there who listen. Thank you for always knowing that you all are listening. Yeah, man. Special big up to yourself. Once you are Laborite, you sound, you know where you are. Thanks God for life, you know. Stay safe, my people. Let's take this final call on the overseas line in this segment. Caller, good evening on the overseas line. Yes, sir.
What's up, partner?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. I don't want to say anything else. Although I don't know what your content of your discussion will be tonight, but my first thing is that I just want to apologize. Sorry.
Yes.
I want to say condolences
Yes.
to my friends, Desiree, on the passing of Dominica's first Prime Minister, Patrick John. And I just saying, like last week Sunday, I don't know if you listened to certain program with Dennis Joseph, To me, Dennis was very emotional on things being said when he was, speaking about the Patrick and whatnot, from his own, links and whatnot, I also called the program that same night, Dennis brought up some important things that, that went wrong with, CJ in his days and whatnot and that. This morning I also listened to the program 100 Great Dominicans, And this morning, yes, after they got the news of this person, they aired the program 100 Great Dominicans. And, this man, yes, great in the sense of Dominica's first Prime Minister, but he has gone through many adversities, I want to condone his treasury and his children, and, he has gone to the way beyond, and now, there are a lot of, even within our own Labour Party now, there are a lot of people who have said so many bad things about the country, and they are very, very disturbing.
Yes.
And now the same set of people who made these condemnations against Patrick, tomorrow they're going to tell him to how great this man was. But he wasn't great now. Patrick was always great. Not now because he's dead that they have to say, oh, he was great, he was this and everything. That should have been said long ago. But I want to condone his wife. I understand she is suffering some injury at the hospital. And then, my family in particular, I know they will be very saddened by the passing of Patrick John. We lived in Mondays at the time, and Patrick could never pass our house straight, going up or down, We lived good friend, and I want to really rest in peace.
Yes, indeed.
And I know the government is going to give him a good send-off, I would think, So all the best. I'll be listening to whatever program that comes up tonight.
Yeah, man.
Okay, man. All
right, my brother. Thank you there. All right, then, my brother Clarence is here in studio with me there. Clarence, of course, anybody you want to shout out as we begin tonight's discussion here. My brother Clarence is joining me here. Clarence, good evening, brother.
Yes, Simeon. Good night to the listeners. Let me just take my first knock by saying condolences to Mrs. John Desiree on the passing of the former Prime Minister, or the first Prime Minister, Patrick John, your husband. I mean, I didn't know Desiree was at the hospital. Probably I would have gone to see her, because Desiree and I, we grew up in Pishley together, because Colbert's peanut father is Desiree's uncle, and she used to spend a lot of time in Pishley. So that's when we go a very, very long way. And then, so my condolences to you, and may the soul of Patrick rest in peace. Let me also say, I was by Sonia last night, and sympathizing with her. But again, let me say condolences. I hope she's keeping strong, and continue to keep strong, Sonia. And the Labour family is with you. Let me say a special good night to a friend in St. Thomas from Granby, that is Esther Thomas. She always in St. Thomas, and the St. Thomas crew always listening. Say hello to my friend for me when you see her. And let me say good night to Paul Alexander Lawa in St. Thomas, and to Moses Bastian and Francis Laville and Leslie later, my cousin. Special good night to you. I know you guys always listen, especially when I'm on the program. Let me say good night to my friend Clifford Wallace. It's a long time I haven't seen you and your wife and daughter. Good night to hope you're doing okay. Maybe tomorrow I'll give you a call. Topi Tops, good night. Good night to my folks in Fort Saint Jean, Bagatelle, the entire Petit Savant constituency, Pishley, my aunt in Pishley, and special good night to you guys in Pishley. Let me see, Red Baron in Bagatelle, and Akko and Arrow, all my fishermen friends in Fort Saint Jean. Wapi in Bioche, good night. And let me see a special good night to the Frégis IL and my IL in Point Michel. My IL, I hope the knee is giving you a break. And anytime, probably on the weekend, probably I might pass and see you. So special good night to you guys, IL and my IL. So yes, Simeon, that's it, a special good night. So
yes, indeed. All right, Clarence, thank you there. Of course, again, thank you for being here with me tonight. We look forward to having some interesting discussion tonight. We will touch, of course, my friend Senior Kongs will join us tonight as we discuss, some of the issue of Fiscal Responsibility Act, as you know, that have been in the public domain. It has been discussed. We heard the Prime Minister Nana Upali having a discussion on that with the Financial Secretary as well. And there have been ongoing discussion by the government in terms of sensitizing the public. The Prime Minister did say that the government, agreed for there to be further consultation on this particular subject matter. As you know, the DLP have been managing the affairs of this country for a number of years now, and fiscal responsibility is something that, no doubt, that this administration has taken very serious. From the incept, we had to enter on the stabilization program with the IMF, and of course, we went through all of the austerity measures and made it to where we are today. And right now, we are basically have run the country for the last 20 years, not having to go back under an IMF program, which is a big plus for us here in Dominica, in spite of having suffered some of the worst major natural disaster in the history of our country. That did not prevent the governments from meeting its fiscal responsibilities and taking care of liabilities and ensuring that the debts of the countries are being paid and salaries and wages and so on, social security, something that, without having any major natural disaster, the opposition suffered from doing so. We'll have some discussion on that. Of course, my friend Clarence is here with me, and we'll also touch a bit on the Choksi issue as well, because since our last discussion on this Choksi program, we're on this Choksi issue, where I asked the question to Mr. Loftus-Dura and the opposition leader as to whether they are on Choksi's payroll. Well, over the weekend, we had a discussion on that, and there is this article in the Sun newspaper that I heard Matthias Peltier and Loftus-Dura and the UWP actually referring to with the issue Scotland Yard. And on Saturday, we dealt with that issue where, this whole talk that is being spread, this propaganda here about ongoing investigation and propaganda and Scotland Yard being involved. We heard the question. I'll play this for you sometime in tonight's program. But definitely, we'll deal with also some of what Loftus-Dura had to say when he was particularly asked a question in regard to his communication with the Choksi family. They seem to be clearly in putting their necks on the line, and tonight we'll examine further some of the reasons why. But before we get into all of this, my friend Clarence is here with me, and I want to, Clarence, we know that the Prime Minister have been out there on Anupali discussing. You are certainly the finance person there, the director, as you know, Mr. Christian served as the former director of audit, and he's an expert. So if you have your business, feel free to call him. He's the man for that. But Clarence, we know that Prime Minister Skerrit, had a very lengthy discussion with the financial secretary, who, in my opinion, was clear on what this policy is all about. I heard recently that the Public Service Union leader, Mr. Thomas Slater, have said that they are seeking legal opinion on it, and after getting their legal opinion, then they will engage the government and other whoever it is further on this matter. So obviously it seems like the union is not clear enough, so they are seeking a legal opinion on the matter. But tell us more, Clarence, about about this whole fiscal responsibility act that is being proposed, the bill that is currently being proposed, and its intention, and some of what Dominicans, and because there have been all sorts of misconceptions being given out there about government, putting a freeze on salaries and all. I'm hearing all sorts of foolishness. But indeed, I know you're an expert on this matter. Enlighten the listeners a bit more on this as we begin tonight's discussion, Clarence.
Good night, Simeon. Well, I have been doing so since on Monday morning.
Yes, I heard you on the roll, yes.
Right, since on Monday morning. Monday morning, probably, I was a little annoyed with the nonsense that was going on. And probably I got a little excited and things, but anyway. But Simeon, basically, the major contention of what is being said, because the FS was clear on Sunday night. There is nothing one could add. She was very explicit. If you do not understand what she said, it is because you do not want to understand. Right? She was extremely clear. She was basically, I had already said what she was saying in a nutshell, but she made it even clearer for people to understand what is in fact is being said. The mere contention on the other side, which I think is very malicious, and as I said on radio, it started by a guy called Roger Bruni living in the U.S. and posted on their page on Facebook. People like me cannot respond, but we can see and read what they post, but we cannot comment or say that is not true or I think so. So they block any opposition to them is blocked on that particular page. So she posted, and then all of a sudden it was picked up. But Simeon, as we have said, there is nowhere in the act, absolutely nowhere in the bill, being proposed that government is going to cap salary at 2%. That is just not there. I mean, just to reinforce again what the FS, that is just not there, nothing at all. So they were being malicious. And if people do not know about something and other people decide to be malicious, you will be always find the maliciousness will spread because for public officers or police officers, they do not want to know for the next 13 years their salary can be capped to 2% because that was what was being pushed.
Right.
So if a public officer get thing, you cannot blame. I would not blame them. But what is the maliciousness of the opposition and the union who just take this up and run with it without even reading the bill, I would say, because if they had read the bill, or if they read the bill, they were just being malicious. So, Simeon, basically what the bill is saying is to, because of our debt situation, the debt situation of the country, and prior to the Hurricane Maria, the debt to GDP was going on, and GDP, as I said on one of this morning, is the gross domestic product. That is all the goods and services and whatever it is that is investment that is being incurred in the economy in any given particular year, in any year. So that is how you measure how well the country is doing, by your GDP. Okay, so all it is saying is that by 2035, the ratio of debt to GDP should be about 60%. So if you can take the debt to GDP to 60%, then what it will do is to free up money, the money that the government is taking to pay debt, and I will show you in a while what happened in 2020. The money that the government is paying debt and interest, it will free up. You will free that up, and then the government can use it to either pay public officers a higher rate or use it to build schools, to repair health centers, to repair roads, and so on, and then to pay the debt the debt it still have easily and be able to save, which is most important, to be able to save monies so that when we get a disaster like Hurricane Maria, a tropical storm, the government do not have to go and borrow, but can go into its savings to assist in the country. And we had a very clear example after Hurricane David. You can remember we were saying the government had savings.
David or Maria?
Hurricane Maria. Hurricane Maria. You can remember we always was saying that the government had savings of about $400 million in the bank.
Yes.
Now, had we not have those savings, up to now the country would still be in a way for Maria, because you had the savings, the government could spend, assist people in covering their houses, assist cleaning up the roads, dredging the rivers. All these things cost money, so the government had to tap into its savings. So after you do a good job between 2017, 2018, 2019, 2 years, you bring back the country to a level almost to how it was prior to Hurricane Maria. When you're thinking you're going to move forward, here comes COVID and disrupt your finances. And then you have to cater for COVID now. And within that time, you need revenue. Right? You're going to need revenue. You cannot increase taxes. So one way you increase revenue is by bringing down your debt, paying down your debt, and the monies you would have to pay the debt and the interest, you now have it because your debt is much lower. It's just like you see me in a business, a furniture business. If you have big debt to pay your equipment, a lot of debt to pay your equipment, and is $100,000 you're making in a year, and you see no prospect of increasing that revenue in a year, the thing you want to do is to pay down the debt so that the money you now pay in the debt, you can use it to employ more people or increase the salaries of your staff. So it's basically, that is what, putting it in a layman's term so that the layperson can understand. That is what is happening. So the government is saying, to do this, we would have now to cap total recurrent expenditure. Your total recurrent expenditure by 2% of GDP. Right? So the first thing any layperson would want to know, well, what is GDP? What is the value of GDP? If you're going to cap it to 2% of GDP, what is the value of GDP? If anybody Google and just Google GDP of Dominica, you will see the GDP of Dominica is about 1 billion. It's working out to be about, what I'm going to round it off, to 1,500,000,000. It's about, as you remember, it's 583 million US dollars, so it will be more, right? But if I round it up so that people can understand, it is $1,500,000,000, $1.5 billion. So if you're saying you're going to cap total expenditure to 2% of GDP, all you do is work out what 2% of GDP, and then you will see that is 30 million. So all the government is saying, we will increase our revenue every year by $30 million. Basically, we'll put it in a nutshell. So currently, if you look at the estimates, the recurrent expenditure of government is $611 million. That is the recurrent expenditure. The capital expenditure is about 400 million. That is why we got a $1 billion in budget last year. So the recurrent expenditure is so let us round it up to 600 million. So if you currently spending 600 million and you're saying you can only increase that by 30 million, so next year your recurrent expenditure will go up to 30 million. You understand? That doesn't mean, since you're increasing by 30 million, you cannot give public officers a salary of 20% or 5% or 15%. You can give a salary of 10% and it still will be less than the 30 million cap, the 2% cap of GDP. So basically, what they were saying, Simeon, is really, it was mischievous. They just picked it up and ran with it, and without even probably, if they saw the bill and they had it, they had the bill probably before because all parliamentarians would have had the bill before it goes to parliament, so that they could create. So I believe the opposition was just being mischievous and malicious in this to really fool or misguide the people of Dominica, and it was deliberate to misguide the people of Dominica.
No.
So Simeon,
yeah, go ahead.
If we look at last year,
and you're talking 2020?
20, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The government paid in debt. Debt, according to what they estimated, $65 million on principal. 65 million and 31 million on interest.
And that was just for 1 year?
For 1 year. So that gives you about $96 million the government had to pay in debt. So now, that includes the payment of the 140. We must always remember that killing loan that the UWP took in
Royal Merchant Bank.
$140 million we received 126 million, and we had to pay back 140 million at 9% interest, making an effective interest rate of 14%. Because at the time, UWP was so much paro for money that they bought the bonds at a premium. So it's like, Simeon, I come to tell you, things are bad with me. If you give me $100, no, I need $100, no, give me $100. But by the end of this month, I will give you $125 at interest rate of 5%. With an interest rate of 5%. So you give me $100, but I'm going to give you $125, and on that $125, I'm going to pay you interest of 5%. So basically, that was what the UWP did, and put the country in that burden with those bonds. So this government has been paying it. So what the government is saying, okay, if I'm paying $96 million in interest repayment, interest and loan,
And
principal,
Uh-huh.
if I can pay back as quickly as possible a lot of those debt that where you have a high interest rate, those high interest debt, that will reduce my repayment to about 30 million, about 50 million, and give me savings of about 40 million, 45 million. So while you cannot increase revenue because you do not want to tax, but you pay in less on your debt, and that by paying less on the debt is like you increase your revenue.
Okay, you have more money.
You have your money in your hand.
In your hand.
You have more money in your hand because you pay in less debt.
Right. More cash available.
More cash is available because you don't have to pay all this debt in 1 year.
Right.
Okay? So you bringing down the debt, and what the government would do is the debt where you have the high interest, where you pay in the higher interest rate, you're going to take them down. Clear them. So you see now, right now, the government is borrowing for COVID, but they never borrow more than 0.5% interest rate, 0% interest rate, long grace period of 10 years and 40 years to repay back. So it's just like a grant. You understand, Simeon?
Yes,
you have a
indeed,
longer
indeed,
period.
Indeed.
So while you're taking your money, while you're saying, okay, this is what we're going to do, because we cannot raise taxes to increase revenue, to bring in more money.
Right.
We have all those debts we inherited, those debts over there, and the debt we ourselves took. Let us pay down. This is what the real bill is saying. Let us pay down the debt, and you will pay the high interest debt first. And then that would, by paying the debt, that would give you more revenue to do what you have to do and to save.
Right.
Because you want to be able to save for rainy days, for when we have a shock, when you have a hurricane, a pandemic. You do not know how long the COVID is going to last.
Right.
You do not know if we might not have a hurricane during this season or next year. You do not know when you're going to have a hurricane, but you want to know when that shock comes. You just like we did during after Maria, you have some money you can fall back to be able to do what you have to rebuild, and to assist your people.
Yes.
To be able to pay. Your revenue is down. Like when it was after Hurricane Maria, when we were not collecting any revenue, but people get their salaries on time.
Right.
We even paid a double bubble. That is because the government had savings. And that is a lesson to us that the country should have savings. So when things are bad, the country can move back. So basically, this is it.
So that was never about limiting.
That is never about limiting or restricting public officers' salary.
Right.
And as the FS said, this year, they managed to cut down on expenditure by 15%. But while they cut down expenditure by 15%, they still paid an increase in salary.
Quite interesting.
And that increase in salary reflect in the cut in expenditure. So you understand?
So how you call that, Clarence? Prudent management?
That is prudent management. That is what everybody. That's an example for any business, any personal, that you cut down on your expenditure, you cut down on discretionary spending, you cut down on whatever you can cut down, but you do not touch people's salary.
Right.
And you do not cap their salary and see what percentage you're going to. You leave the salary for negotiation.
Right.
So that's what it has always been.
Right.
So if the union can convince government and see, okay, we need a 5% increase, and you can convince government in your negotiation, not by force, by threat, but during negotiation, in negotiations. That is how you come there with good faith in your negotiation. You negotiating in good faith. You don't try to put a knife over the head of government or by threat of strike and threat of an action. You come and you negotiate properly and fairly. And then if you can convince government and you can say, okay, our public officers need a 5%, a 10% salary increase, then you can get your 10% salary increase. There is no way that the government is saying that you're not going to negotiate. So when I saw the letters written by the chairman of the Police Welfare Association and the general secretary, clearly this was basically coming from a political state. These were political statements being made, and it does not reflect what basically is in the law, because there is no way, nowhere in the law it says you're going to cap salaries by 2%.
Now, Senior Counsel Anthony Asfan is on the line with us. Good evening to you, SC. Welcome.
Hi, good night, Clarence. Good night, Simeon.
Good evening, my brother. Good evening. I know you're very powerful where the legislative part is concerned, SC, but what do you make out of all the discussion that is ongoing on this?
Before we do that,
Yes.
I want to offer my condolences
Indeed.
to Sonia Felix and her family, to condemn the savagery of those who rejoice at the loss. I mean, Simeon, when I hear things like that, and I'm told by people in the diaspora and elsewhere that are on Facebook, you know, I mean, I keep telling them that whenever I hear things like that, it gives me sometimes, even when I'm tired, it gives me the motivation to keep going, because these people are dangerous. A lot of them have really savage instincts. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget when Rosie Douglas died, chatter that was taking place, that certain people kill him. And with Pierre Charles, when I was walking into the Princess Margaret Hospital, some fellow shouted, "Yeah, Asafan, the effort dead now." You know, the celebration when Honorable Charles Savary, then Minister of Government, got sick. When Julius got sick, when this one got sick, everybody celebrating and salivating. And I mean, that's the savagery in sectors of our society that we have to condemn. So my condolences to Sonia, and of course to Mr. Desby John and her family and the passing of PJ. Comrade, let me tell you something, right? The policy behind this legislation is not a new one. Clarence will tell you, as the Director of Audit, there's been constant dialogue with the IMF, the World Bank, and others about the sustainability of a country's debt to GDP ratio. And it has always been a benchmark that the government should try their very best to keep the debt to GDP ratio as long as possible, as low as possible, for the very reasons which Clarence have given. And it's something that I have seen complaints about debt to GDP in IMF reports in some of these islands, including others between 1995 and 2000. From the World Bank, and there's been a constant policy drive to maintain a debt to GDP ratio that's in the region of 60%, as Clarence said. It's nothing new. It's not a new policy. It's not a new idea. It's not a new benchmark. All that is being done now. All that is being done now is to give it a legislative framework. And it's a similar legislative framework in some parts, not all. Some of it is new. To the Financial and Management Act, which was passed so many years ago, putting controls and restraints on certain expenditures and revenues and so on. And there's a strong reason for that. We are young enough to have experienced the reckless, irresponsible, dishonest expenditure of funds and accumulation of debt between 95 and 2000. We learned what happened when our debt to GDP ratio escalated after 1995 to the extent, well then what happened? What happened? Tell us what happened. They couldn't pay LPOs, they couldn't pay interest on the debt, they couldn't pay telephone, they couldn't pay lights, they couldn't pay water, they couldn't pay civil servants on time, they couldn't pay Social Security at all. I mean, these are the symptoms and consequences of a country's debt to GDP ratio completely out of whack. And as a result of which the government in 1998 and 1999 started getting into default. Default with the various treasury bonds, loans, and other legal obligations, contractual and otherwise, which they had. What was the result of that irresponsible and imprudent management of our affairs? The IMF in 2003. Debt to GDP ratios that are out of whack because of irresponsible behavior inevitably ends up in the hands of the IMF. Antigua had an IMF program before the Gaston Browne administration won in 2014. Why? Because the debt to GDP ratio had gone out of whack. They couldn't pay their debts. They just couldn't pay it. And inevitable consequences had to follow. And in some other countries, it's reduction of salaries, whether temporary or permanent, as happened in Barbados many years ago. The retrenchment of public servants, the shutting down of statutory boards. These are the consequences. Could you hold on 1 second, Senior?
Yes, indeed. Yes, of course. We have, the senior counsel on the line there. Certainly having a little distraction in his background there. I guess he's taking care of that. Yes, Clarence.
Let me see.
Yes, sorry about that.
Okay, we have
These are the inevitable consequences of the fiscal shrinkage problems government faces with irresponsible borrowings and irresponsible management of the finances. The purpose of this act is to put in place legislative measures, not to take people's salaries away or to control people's salaries, but to ensure a statutory framework exists to prevent what happened between 95 and 2000 from ever happening again. And Grenada and St. Vincent have already passed the same or similar legislation. Without trade unions belly aching and braying in the street about taking people's salaries or putting a cap on their salaries, which it has nothing to do about, nothing to do with. I mean, Clarence gave the example of your thing. Who in their right mind can run a rum shop, a popcorn stand, a home, a house, a shop, or a business if your debt obligations far exceed what your revenues are? You will always be in deficit, and when you're in deficit, you have to keep borrowing more. So the policy of this plan is for prudently, responsibly, and prudently manage fiscal house. Put your house in order, that you have greater revenue access, including the 400 million surplus my brother Clarence spoke about, to be able to meet the various social and economic services that you're providing to the citizens, to ensure that when a hurricane comes, as Maria came, if ever there was a statement at the right time. The fact that we were able to recover in 2 years and 3 years with the immediate head start we had with Maria was because of the $400 million surplus the government was able to maintain through its prudent management of the finances of the country. Just imagine if Maria had hit us in December 1999, when the government didn't even have money to pay the telephone bill. Where would we be? And I think Thomas later and others and Clarence, you're going to get vexed with me, I know he's your cousin, are being dishonest to try to follow the line of the United Workers' Party, that this was intended as a cap on civil servant salaries, when that was never the intention. And you know what is amazing? That was not the perception or the view of the trade unions in the other countries that have put in place similar legislation, which is harmonized legislation with the assistance of international organizations. It's like our Companies Act, our Insurance Act, our Money Laundering Act. These are harmonized legislation that international and regional organizations help us to put in place to properly manage our affairs. How that turns into an attack on public servants, I do not know. Well, I know.
Yes.
Dirty, nasty party politics by Thomas Later and others. And I see it, and I read it, and I read the notes from the financial secretary, and it is plain and obvious what the purpose is, what the purpose is for. And anybody who would have read that to come up with an idea that it was intended to cap civil servants is being dishonest, drunk, or high. You know, it's just nuts.
No, Essie, I wanted to find out whether whether Dominica is the only country who is taking such a decision to pass such a legislation.
St. Vincent and Grenada passed it already. Other countries are discussing it. Other countries may not want to do it now because the powers that be may not believe that they can, for the time being, achieve the necessary goals under the legislation. But Parliament and the government doesn't act in vain. The Prime Minister is not going to bring that legislation to Parliament if he does not believe that his prudent management of the country without the interruptions of natural disasters and COVID, that he couldn't meet the goals. Of course he knows he can meet the goals because he has the advantage of a track record of prudent fiscal management of the country. I mean, just imagine after Hurricane Maria, these public servants, their leadership was weighing in the streets. The leadership, not the public servant, got a double bubble, including members of the House.
Yes.
But
that is the result of prudent management.
Yes. Clarence wants to say something, interact with you there a little bit. Yes.
But, Tony, this Prime Minister, this Minister of Finance, and this government, the Labour Party, have shown they had done it already, because when the government came into office in 2000, the debt to GDP ratio was 135%. And with a measure of increasing your GDP and doing savings, they had, and paying down the debt, they had moved the GDP to 72% just before Hurricane Maria.
You thought it wasn't lower than that?
No, it was 72% of GDP before Maria.
Okay.
The debt to GDP ratio before Maria was 72%. The increase came after Maria and during COVID, when the debt to GDP increased. Because your GDP dropped, you lost 226% of your GDP. Your GDP dropped, you're not getting any revenue after Hurricane Maria. COVID, the same thing, revenue dropped. So your GDP dropped. So therefore, with a combination of a drop in GDP and an increase in borrowing, that bring up the debt to GDP ratio to now about 97%.
Yeah, but But the point, the real golden thread of this story is that this legislation is not intended to prevent hurricanes and increases in debt caused by additional expenditure caused by natural disasters. It is to set out a legislative framework for achieving at the best of times, without the additional infliction of damage by natural disasters and COVID, of prudently and reasonably managing the affairs of the country by putting it in a legislative form that everybody is clear as to what it is the government is trying to achieve. All right, and I think the fact that the example you gave of Maria is the telling example of the fundamental importance of prudent management of the government revenues and expenditure. Because if the debt to GDP ratio at the time of Maria was 197% or some other ridiculous figure, the situation would have been extraordinarily different, right? And it's because it was 72% to GDP that the government had the excess funds there to be able to immediately mobilize relief, medical and food supplies for the people of the country. And that is the wonderful consequence of prudent management that the act is intended to achieve, to bring it even lower to 60. The other side of the flip coin is that if you don't prudently manage your affairs of the country, your financial affairs of the country, in accordance with an established policy or a legislative framework like that act is purporting to do, we are going to end up in the same situation because Roosevelt Skerrit may not be there forever. Right? He may decide tomorrow to become a farmer. He may decide he's had enough. He wants to go and study law. He has the world at his feet right now. So he may decide to do anything. The election may change at the next time. What we do not ever want to happen is another 95 to 2000. When the ship was sinking under reckless, irresponsible borrowing and sale of national assets, and a waste of money and reckless borrowing to effect a fraud on the people of the country, to give them that impression that the country was doing good, even though the IMF, and Clarence would have read the IMF reports, 1998, 1999, which you and I read. He would have read the World Bank assessment after 2000. He would have read Oxford Management Policy's analysis of the debt that made it clear that the fiscal crisis Dominica had, which led to the IMF, was a direct result of the increase, the escalation was the word that was used, of debt to GDP, debt over GDP, and the reckless borrowing that were executed, both in terms of bonds and bills and loans and so on, executed by the United Workers' Party, at the same time not paying civil servants on time, not paying Social Security, not paying LPOs, not doing the basic things that even a shopkeeper or a farmer or a restaurateur or a furniture maker like you have to do. The government was in a position when it couldn't pay anything because the debt was suffocating the country, and it was like an albatross that was on the necks, that has grappled our necks for decades and generations to come. We are still paying some of the debt today. Part of that 72% debt to GDP ratio is some of the debt that this government has inherited and had restructured after 2000 and 2003 and 4 to pay over a period of 20 years and 15 years. You know? And the very people and the political party that they support that plunged this country into crisis are now finding every cheap, dirty, lying excuse not to support the legislation and try to portray it as an attack on public servants. When it is not an attack and not directed at and not intended to cut salaries at 2% for public servants. I mean, after all, man, After all, I mean, people can read the thing and appreciate what it is that it's saying.
Hmm.
And I stayed away from the details of the Act, Simeon.
Yes.
Because I think sometimes you have to give parallels and comparisons and examples of what good prudent management means, what bad imprudent management means. And if you really want a contrast, look at the state of the economy. And you know what it also means, comrade? Give me a couple more minutes there.
Go right ahead.
The Caribbean Development Bank poverty assessment for 95 to 2000 showed the highest escalation of poverty in Dominica's history. You know why that was?
Tell us.
Debt to GDP had exploded, the economy had contracted, bananas had died because Edison James didn't think it was going to happen. Right? So you had a situation where the government couldn't pay bills, the government couldn't spend money on the road, the government couldn't spend money on schools, the government couldn't spend money on toilet paper because the debt was blown out of proportion. There was no revenue there to go and take and pay people their money. So what happened? The economy shrank, poverty escalated, unemployment blew to the roof to 28, 29%. And these are all the symptoms and consequences of bad, dishonest, intentional, reckless, negligent management of the economy. And have you realized with the prudent management of our country, a completely different situation exists? Social security is paid on time, civil servants paid on time, debts are paid on time. Poverty has significantly been reduced significantly. Unemployment is down. People are employed. People are being educated. People have access to medical care. People have access to climate resilient homes. People have access to community-based health and wellness centers, to state-of-the-art hospital in Marigot and in Goodwill. That's the difference. No user fees, none of the impositions of hardship that we suffered with the United Workers' Party because of the prudent management of our fiscal affairs under the leadership of Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit and Minister of Finance Roosevelt Skerrit.
Indeed.
That's the contrast. IMF on national development. And all the government is saying, we have more work to do. We need to bring the debt to GDP down to give us greater access to revenues that we can spend on matters as and when they arise or to implement new policies and new infrastructure. That is what that legislation is intended to achieve, and that is what that legislation is intended to prevent another nightmare like the United Workers' Party's 4.5 years in office. So, my brother, it is time for me to move on. I have some work to do, so I'll listen off the...
Thank you, Senior Counsel. Thank you indeed there for, of course, taking time out. Yes, Clarence.
So basically, Simeon, what else can we see?
I know.
I took my time today during lunch hour, and I got the law, the St. Vincent law and the Grenada law, and basically the same thing that is in the Dominic. Basically the same, because it's a harmonized resolution. I'm thinking for all the members of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Union, the ECCU. It's the very same thing passed in Grenada. As a matter of fact, Grenada has done an amendment to strengthen their thing. Passed in Grenada, passed in St. Vincent, and then Dominica proposed the same bill because it's ECCU union, ECCB. And what this will do, Simeon, because if we, and we must understand, what people don't understand is that we have a common currency.
Union.
We call ECC union. We have a common currency. And we have to do everything to stabilize, to keep the currency stable. And government has to do everything to keep the currency stable. And this is a measure, a further measure, aimed at keeping the currency union, the ECC, the EC dollar, stable. The EC dollar is one of the most stable or the strongest currency in the world.
Yeah, it has never shifted for a number of
We
years.
have never shifted for a number of years.
Been
So
steady.
anything in one of the countries where the country cannot pay debt, where its revenue keep on having deficit on primary deficit, paying more than it makes. It cannot raise taxes. You borrow in a lot more. That is going to affect the currency union. That is going to affect the currency. So can you imagine 3 or 4 countries in the region?
Yeah.
In the same situation?
I know.
That is going to be a cause.
Then the currency
That is
will be
going to
problem.
affect that the EC dollar would be in problem.
Yes.
So not only we have to protect our own selves in Dominica to have savings, to be able to have savings to be able to meet external shocks or natural disaster shocks. We have to take measures to protect the currency.
And to keep that
because
keep it
we are
strength.
in a union.
Yes, yes.
So that is why this is a harmonized legislation that every country in the union
has to adopt.
Right. Some have done it. Some probably they feel they cannot do it at this time. And Dominica feels now is the time to do it. We have the tenacity, we have the capacity, and we have the will to do it. So let us do it, and let us see how far it is. But even then, there is a safeguard in the legislation.
But before you go to the safeguard, let's take this call there on the line there. We'll get back to that. Caller, good evening to you on the overseas line.
Good evening, Simeon. Good evening, Clarence. How are you doing?
Doing good, thank you. God bless. Yes, welcome, brother.
Yes, thank you, Simeon. I just want to briefly contribute to your program. And Clarence, thank you for the excellent job you're doing in explaining this situation, which a lot of people may not really understand. And of course, the opposition is trying to use it to play politics. So, thank you for using your expertise to explain to the public, because I think that is very, very important. And Senior Consul also was excellent in his contribution. But I will leave the details of the bill and the accounts over to Clarence, because he's the expert on that. But I take a different approach to what I want to say. This opposition, they are seeking, they're looking for every reason, every opportunity to try to cause unrest in the country. All right, and they are very visceral in their reaction. They don't need to understand anything. They don't take the time to understand anything. They just see an opportunity, they pounce on it, and they call for protest, and they want to go to parliament and acting very, very irrationally. Right now, they are claiming that the government is trying to put a freeze or cap on the civil servants and public servants' pay raise, which is absolutely not true, right? But what I can say from all the evidence and the facts are clear that this government has the best record of taking care of public servants of any government that I have seen in my lifetime, right? And we can go back and reference, okay? We can go back and reference. After Hurricane, even before that, right? We know what happened with the economic situation that Workers' Party left when they were kicked out of office.
Yes.
Right? Simeon, you have spoken many times about the levy
Indeed.
put on public servants.
Yes, indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
Which this government had to eventually pay back. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Then we had the world economic crisis. Where every country, especially the small country like ours, suffered significantly. Right? Then we had Erica, then we had Maria, then we go to COVID. And I went back and referenced negotiations between the public servants and the government, right? The
Mm-hmm.
pay raises they have gotten, right? And there are several quotes from Mr. Lita from way back to 2013. I referenced something where he was quite satisfied with the government offer, right? Not only the pay raise,
Mm-hmm.
but also the non-salary contributions that the government had given to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Money for medical insurance, money for training, you know, and all of that stuff. He was quite satisfied with that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then there's another one I referenced from 2017 where he said the same thing. He was happy with the pay raise
Mm-hmm.
that his public servants got,
Right.
right? Then we had after Hurricane Maria, when the government was able to pay a double bubble, right, to public servants, to include members of parliament. But the amazing thing is that, Simeon and Clarence, the same members of parliament who shamelessly accepted that double bubble, which was paid incidentally from the CBI program,
Yes.
are the same ones who have been trying to kill this program relentlessly, right? Linton has been out there on a campaign to destroy the CBI program, right? In 2020, the governor of the ECCB, I forget his name, Antoine. He was here at a conference in Dominica,
Yes.
and he praised this government for the management of the CBI and how they have used this to spark a recovery after Hurricane Maria.
Yes.
He praised this government, right? So the records speak for themselves, Simeon, right? So when these guys try to use and try to manipulate the information and distort the information to seek to create unrest and to cause trouble in the country, they don't care about public servants,
I know.
right? Because if it was left to them, public servants would be suffering because the CBI program, which has been a godsend to this country, which has helped public servants and everybody in this country, they have tried to destroy and ruin it, right? So they're looking to cause problems. They are restless, they are miserable, they are angry that they're not in power, and they will look for every opportunity, my friends, to cause problems.
That's right.
Right? And if you heard the evidence was clear on cue when Brian Linton called angry at Thomas later. It was like a quid pro quo thing.
Yes.
Right? We will come and protest with you about the stupidness that they talk about in Parliament. They will talk about chokes in Parliament, and then you will come and help us because you help us to protest with about Chokesy, and we'll help you protest about this legislation.
Yes.
Right? So it's not any genuine concern or interest that they have for the people of Dominica.
That's right.
Right? These people are just troublemakers. Right? So all I want to say is the people of Dominica can reference for themselves. They can go back into the archive. They can go back and see how this government has assisted public servants, right? On Housing Loans Board, money, non-salary and benefits, right? Go back and see for yourself. Go back and read. Go back, all in BNO and DAVI, right? The government has taken care of public servants, right?
That's right.
And like I said, in other countries, where economies, are dealt a blow, they cut back on public servants. They send people home,
Yes.
right? And the Prime Minister has made it a commitment to not do that, right? Even if the country revenue stream is impacted significantly, he don't send people home.
That's right.
They don't cut public servants' pay, right? They get paid on time, right? So there's no doubt to anybody who's genuine, who's honest, who's rational and reasonable that this government has been very, very good to public servants. They have been very, very prudent and responsible in handling the economy and this country's finances, and this has impacted the people of Dominica to public servants in a positive way.
Indeed.
Right? And this is the reason why we have to keep supporting this government, and we have to keep debunking the lies and to expose the mischief of the opposition, like Valerie Clinton and Mr. Clarence, Mr. What's his name? Your cousin? What's his name again?
Yeah, you talking about Thomas Lita?
Mr. Lita.
Yes.
Right. Mr. Lita, his behavior was not an accident. It is consistent with his past behavior. He always jumps on the Workers' Party train, right? Whatever Linton says, he repeats, right? And I don't think he comes with a good fit negotiation. But this Prime Minister is such a skillful and so skillful and so visionary and so smart, right? Every time they come with the pitchforks, he knows how to disarm them.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
So, my friends, thank you very much for
Thank you again.
Wonderful program.
Thank you again. All right, there. Thank you, my brother. There. Of course, it's already 9:44. Got to take a short break there. When I come back, we're gonna get right into continue our discussion. Indeed, there as we continue to discuss our progress here in Dominica. We'll be right back with you. There. Just stay. Just like my great friend Peter Augustine said, don't touch that dial.
Hey, give him. Donald, I wondering who shot who. Donald, I wondering who shot who. Give them. Galagalang dang dang. Galagalaga. Galagalang dang dang. Oh boy. When you enact him, the rules remain the same. One team to lose, one team to win. If ever you lose, you go home and dress your bruise. Come back again in another game. Hey, Donald, you remind me of he. Donald, swear you both are family. When you storm the Capitol building, then inside your bunker hiding, it's the same thing Uncle would do. When you incite violence, then claim your innocence, it's the same thing Uncle would do. Hey, Donald, you brought back so much memory. Donald, it's like you're patterning and we same thing Uncle would do. When you block and burn it up, same thing Uncle would do. When you push and mash it up, same thing Uncle would do. Lord, Donald, I want to know who shot who. Donald, I want to know who shot who. Give me. Angalang dang dang, bang bang galang dang lege, bang bang galang dang dang. Lord, blaming world police in everyone business. Yes, you care police.
Just thinking business. Yes, man. On Clarence, my brother, welcome back again to our listeners. Yes, sir.
Finally, on this particular topic.
Yes, Clarence.
I want to show the Dominican people the transparency. How transparent is that government with its debt? You can remember some years ago, you were always on that. We had the director of audit, both the then director of audit, Ozzy Lewis and Ralph Elwin.
Yes.
They always used to write during the UWP and early Freedom Party that they could not audit all the debt because they were not being reported the total debt.
Yes, that was clear in the report.
Yeah,
yes.
There was a report, and you were working on this.
I used to highlight that, yes, back in the
Today,
days.
if you go to the estimate on page 8, and that has always been there since when Pierre Charles was Prime Minister, that started. You can remember when Pierre Charles said put everything in the basket?
Right, all debt, yes.
Everything in the basket,
right.
And that had always been there.
Because loans were being taken and they were not being accounted for in the report.
And they were not being recorded.
Right.
So everything. So I can tell you, because it's a public document, at the end of June 2020, the government was owing China $78.6 million. During the course of the year, they paid China $7.5 million in principal and $1.7 in interest. The highest loans the government have is the Caribbean Development Bank of $167 million. The other loan is the IMF, $142 million. And a lot of those loans of higher interest were prior to this government. For example, you have the Taiwan, the government of Taiwan. Mm-hmm. You still owe them because this government has brought it down significantly to $2.3 million, the loan. Mm-hmm. And all those loans have been significant payments or high interest loans taken, most of them taken by the United Workers' Party. And the government is paying that down. So what I'm saying is that under this principle, can you imagine a government with debt and most of that debt, or 95% of that debt, is less than 2% interest, at 2% with long-term loan, long-term 40 years, 10 years moratorium to pay? Yes. Can you imagine how that is going to improve the finances of the country? You can save, you can do more, you can spend more on roads, you can spend more on things. So basically, this is basic objective. You cannot see, and finally, let me say it again, if you cannot increase revenue by taxes, there is no way you can say you're going to ask people to pay more in taxes, pay more VAT, pay more income tax, when the government is already reducing income tax. Yes. And increasing the threshold. Mm-hmm. The only way you can have more money in your hand is to reduce your debt. Right. And the way you reduce your debt is reduce your high interest debt first. Mm-hmm. All the debt you have at 4%, 5%, up to 9% interest, you reduce that, you clear it, you pay it out. But you do not want to do it one time. You give yourself a period of time to do this. Right. And this government is giving itself 13 years to do this. Right. So you pay off your debt, and all the debt you have would be 2% and less. 0%, 1%. Right. So then that gives the government a breathing space, a space where you can invest, you can save. Right. And help make your economy more flamboyant. Make your economy more flamboyant. Yes. So, Simeon, I believe we have dealt with this. Yes, indeed. And then I'm sure the people understand what we have been saying. And
but let's take this caller there on this subject before we shift gear, because we want to deal a little bit with this other story there. Are you doing for Sunday overseas, Dan? Good evening.
Good evening, Simeon. Good evening to you and Clarence there, and good evening to all our listeners around the world, on the rock, on the island, and overseas, our diasporans. And good evening to our friends there. Mr. Good evening, my friend in Portsmouth, Miss Ozil, and others. Good evening to you. I know you're listening, and let's talk a little bit more on this subject, Clarence and Simeon. I'm listening to the discussion, and the well delivered our utterances by the senior counsel and Donny, and you and Clarence, Simeon, very carefully and clinically, unpacking, so to speak, what the discussion is about in terms of the bill and what the government is doing. Look, the Prime Minister has proven to be a leader that understood and understand what is going on in terms of fiscal responsibility. And when you have a bill like what is in the process of being passed, in terms of the discussion we are having, it speaks to a government and a leader that is very, very, very extremely responsible for the country and its inhabitants thereof. So I don't see how, if you don't understand the bill, Simeon, if you don't understand what is being legislated, then it is you can ask a question, but don't go out there. Do not go to the airwaves
and spread malicious and intentional, dishonest utterances to the people and try to confuse the people. I mean, we must agree that, their listeners are 16,000 less, but maybe other people listen also. And these guys have been constantly making an effort to derail the minds of the people and let them to see things, that try to put things that is not there to, again, cause upheaval. So the idea is to spread bad information, spread lies about a bill, about a legislation that's about to pass, and then the people hoping that the people would come out in Roseau in droves and storm the Capitol and create an insurrection like they did in D.C. In January 6th.
Yes.
And then they would be somewhere clapping their hands. These guys have no moral authority or competence. They don't have no fiscal competence or financial background or standing to talk about any of what we're talking about in terms of the bill, in terms of the 2% of recurring expenditure. I don't understand it, and I don't. In some cases, I know they're malicious, but I know they are incompetent and lack of understanding. Because why I'm Clarence face that is because we saw what happened between 1995 and 2000.
That's right.
We saw the lack of fiscal responsibility and straight up ignorance that existed, because there's no way that anybody in their right mind, any government, any corporation, any manager, any CEO, any board would approve a loan for $140 million at 14%. There is no way anybody in their right mind would do that. So I don't want to call it only incompetence. I want to call it it's just lack of knowledge. These guys have had nothing to lead a country, and that is why they plummeted the country in 2000, between the period 95 to 2000, in a fiscal debacle. And where was Thomas Layton? Where was Thomas Layton when when all the institutions, the IMF, the Bank, and East Caribbean Central Bank, and even the National Bank said they have nothing to do with these guys because they do not know, they simply don't know what they're doing. That is not my. I didn't say that, Simeon and Clarence. That is what the financial institution said. That is what reports coming from international financial institutions said, that these guys are not competent. In other words, they did not know what they were doing in 1995 to 2000. They don't know what they're saying right now, and they will not know in the next 5, 10, 15 years because of the competence. And so all that they are about is trying to create upheaval, trying to create mayhem, trying to create a scene in Dominica. So CNN and CBS and BBC can zoom or pick up clips of Dominic people in Dominica in an unrest, and then they'll be clapping. I'm and Simeon, the government has shown on a consistent basis its ability to run the fiscal matters of the country. The government has shown that it is prudent, and the level of understanding and execution is second to none. When we look at the disasters that have happened in Dominica and the way we bounced back, and people think, well, a lot of this money came from other outside institutions, but in the beginning, Simeon, right after the disasters, Mary and Erica, government had to go in its back pocket to get the money that it has saved over the years, so it could help the people, as Clarence rightly said.
That's right.
So for one to try to, instill confusion in the mind of the people, it was the same government that create all kind of avenues and platforms so the civil servants, the public servants can get a very low interest rate, can get their salary on time. On time, Simeon. I can remember salaries have not been paid on time, and in some cases haven't been paid for 2-3 months under the UWP administration. Where was Thomas Layton? And since the inception of the Labour Party, nobody has suffered that fate. And in some cases, as one caller mentioned, a double bubble was given. That speaks volume. That speaks volume of what the leadership and the prudency, the prudent management of the revenues and the purse of the country. It says a lot about the leadership of this country. And so for one to try to you don't understand 2% of recurrent expenditure. You don't understand we are trying to keep the debt to GDP down. In order for that to happen, because you have to the international standard is down to 60%. And for that to happen, Klaus is right. You have to take certain measures. You have to cut certain areas. You have to manage the fiscal affairs of the country in a most prudent manner. And that is what the Prime Minister is doing. Not those that left the country in 2000 with a debt to GDP of around 120%. That is way out, and that is why other financial institutions didn't want to have nothing to do with Dominica because of the leadership that we had at the time. But when we look at the leadership and the constant steady hands of the Prime Minister and the way he handles the affairs of the country, there is no doubt in our minds that the decision, that the bills that are being passed, the decision has been made in a fiscal manner on behalf of this country is one of strong decision, is one that have been carefully considered and carefully studied. And when it comes to, when it is being taken to the House to pass, is because the Prime Minister is bringing this bill in the interest of the people of the country, not only for now in a short term, not only for the midterm, but for the long term. And that is what Clarence and Simeon, you call prudent management. That is what you call fiscal management, and that is what you call a leader that knows exactly what he's doing. Gentlemen, I'll be listening to you all.
Thanks
for the opportunity, and let's continue to give the information to the people in a right and proper manner. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for your... Yes, Clarence.
Simeon, let me just say good night to a friend in Canada, that is Francis Hilton, and his wife Yvonne. Special good night to you guys, and to my Facebook friend in Toronto. Special good night to you. I know you're listening. And let me say good night to Carlton Regis and Norma Alexander Regis from Pishne in Toronto. Special good night to you guys.
Now, Clarence, someone sent a WhatsApp message there, and the person is saying here that, you need to mention the income tax reforms of the DLP that involve the reduction in income tax payments to public officers and other citizens' cars.
Yeah, well, that is an ongoing process. When the government came into office, the threshold was $12,000. So any monies you were getting $1,000 a month and more, if you're getting more than $1,000 a month, you had to pay tax on it. That has moved to $30,000. So any person getting $30,000 a year do not pay any tax.
Which is like a salary of $2,500 a month.
Which is about $2,500 a month, or $2,500 a month. Or anybody getting above that on the first $2,500, you pay no tax.
Right.
And then even the bands have come down. So when you had a 40% rate, a 30% band, that would be the highest band. I think it has come down to, I think 35%, or could be less, I can, sometimes. And then all the bands have come down. The corporate income tax have also come down.
So,
right?
So while the government continue to pay debt and it meted debt obligation, as you said, over $96 million overall into 2020, with $65 million going to the principal and another $31 million to the interest. While the government continue to do that, it still continues to bring relief to the citizens by lowering the taxes and making adjustments to the rate that persons would also pay while increasing the threshold as well.
So all this, these are all the things, Simeon. If the government could reduce the debt payment, its interest payment and its debt payment, then the government can say, okay, on the first $40,000, on the first $45,000, you don't pay tax.
Right.
Because the money it would be collecting in income tax.
Right.
The debt, by bringing down the debt, it would have that money in its hand.
So
right? And without raising any revenue.
I can put a few more $1 million in the pockets of the people.
And put a few more $1 million in the pocket of the people because it is paying less on debt. On the debt. So that is what you call prudence. Right? It is simple thing.
So the higher the liability of the state is the more responsibility on the citizens.
The more because it is the citizens pay.
Right.
So when UWP was taking 140, and this is, I mean, in my view, this is criminal in nature. When you were taking $140 million at 14% interest rate,
right,
effective interest rate, you knew you were crippling you. It's not you that was going to pay it. It is the citizens of the country that was going to pay it.
Right.
And most of all, you're not even in government to say you're going to suffer. And on the very first installment, they defaulted.
So thanks God for labor.
So you can say thanks God, labor came in and saved the day.
Saved the day.
So if we can pay down that debt,
yes,
and you pay down all your high interest debt, this is the key thing. You pay down all your high interest debt, and then you keep those 0%, 1%, 0.5%, no more than 2% debt.
Right.
Where you can bring down your debt repayment to about 30-40 million. It means therefore you have savings of 50 million
in the bank.
You can save. You have 50 million, and then you can save some. You can spend some. You can pay more salaries. You can do. So it is basically what this bill is hoping to do.
Indeed.
And it is not capping public officers.
Income or salary
negotiations.
Right, salary negotiations.
So it is not. There is no cap. Absolutely no cap. 2% salary no cap. Right. That doesn't prevent public officers negotiate a 10% salary or a 15% salary. Right? It doesn't do that.
Yes, I.
You can still reduce your expenditure and increase a public officer salaries. And you're still within the limit of 2% of GDP. Because as GDP grows, the 2% of GDP will get more, will get higher.
Yes, I.
Right?
Yes,
so, Simeon, I think we have exhausted that.
Indeed.
We can move to the next topic.
Indeed, and indeed, Clarence, and I mean, it's quite a bit there to throw on, and I'm sure the discussion on this particular important issue will continue, and I'm sure as the discussion, ensue that a lot of people will understand better what it's about. I know Prime Minister Skerrit said that there will be some consultation on this particular matter, and so it's not the end of the discussion. We spend the greater part of the first 2 hours of this program tonight to, again, continue on this subject as Prime Minister Skerrit did on Anupale with So for those of you who missed it, you can always log into our Prime Minister's Facebook page and Anupale and always listen again carefully to what was being discussed by Prime Minister Dr. Skerrit and the Financial Secretary. But let's just take this call there before we move here, because I want to talk a bit on this. I have something on this particular subject that we had on our last program there to talk about. But I want to take this call there before we get to that. Caller, good evening on the overseas line.
Hey, good evening, Simeon and Mr. Clarence.
Good evening. Good evening, brother. Good evening.
Yeah. Mr. Clarence, so I don't know if you had the opportunity to listen to Q95 midday package today.
No, I did not.
So they have a heading that says that somehow Thomas Slater, it's almost like a boast. Thomas Slater basically saved all the unions from having to suffer under. I'm paraphrasing. That might be the exact thing of it. That he prevented the other unions from suffering or having the effect from the government's, they call it the dictatorial bill. And I'm listening to you since this evening, Mr. Christian, with the explanation that you're giving. And I don't want to put my own interpretation of what Mr. Later said. I don't want to interject it into this, because it shows clearly you have a high knowledge of what you're speaking of there. And the explanation that Later gave, or what the 295 audience is privy to, is a great contrast to what you're saying. I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to present it in a way that, or to create any confusion or argument as to what's right and what's not wrong. But clearly, what you're saying and what Leta's saying is just totally different. I mean, you're drilling down into the nuances of what the bill says it will do and does. And I think Leta's stuff is like just top surface. Because he gave an example of what is a capital expenditure and reoccurring expenditures. And you just said that the salaries, even though that they're recurring expenditures, they're not capped. There's still room there that you can basically negotiate from up to what? You said a 10% increase? A 10%, as high as a 10% for salaries or something like that?
Yes, they can negotiate any amount of salaries. Because currently, our salary bill is about 140 million. 10% of that would be 14 million.
Yes.
So they can, and 14 million is a far cry, is much lower than 2% of GDP.
Right.
Because our GDP is 1.5 billion, as I speak, a little more, 1.5 billion. 2% of 1.5 billion is 30 million. So all the government is saying, and I've repeated that over and over, is that our current recurrent expenditure, including salaries, is 600 million. All the bill is saying is that I am not going to increase that by more than 2% of GDP, which is 30 million. So therefore, next year when the program starts, our recurrent expenditure will not be more than 630 million, depending on how GDP, if GDP remains the same. Right? So you have 30 million increase. Within that 30 million, public officers can negotiate up to 15-20% salary increase.
And that's a lot.
So I'm telling you.
That's huge.
So
that's huge.
So I do not know where they say you're going to cap salaries.
That's what you're saying, that you're going to cap it, and then there's been no room for negotiation, and that civil servants will be in poverty and stuff like that. I mean, take your time and give it a listen to show that you can refute the argument that this guy presented.
Well, the fact of the matter.
Yes.
The fact of the matter, the union has well, they say it's a union program, but it's not a union program. They have a program on a Wednesday night. So maybe I listen to them, but you cannot call the program because anytime you call, you get attacked. Because you cannot call and refute because they have their program. And funny enough, public officers don't call the program. Probably I do not know if they listen because they don't seem to listen, because you look at their Facebook page and it's all sometimes less than 10 persons looking at the at the page. So they don't listen. Public officers don't listen. But it is more an opposition program rather than a program for public officers. So if people like me call and say and try to say, look, this what you're saying is wrong, this is the situation, right, you wouldn't engage you in a decent conversation. When you finish, he attacks you. So when people like Blessings and all the other persons, all he said, thank you very much, and leave it like that. But anytime I call, he goes on a rant and wouldn't engage in a discussion or anything. So sometimes I just don't call this program.
Well, the other programs are politically motivated anyway in what they do. Yes, but my brother. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, so that's what I just wanted to clear up with Mr. Well, and Mr. Clarence just rightly explained the position. So he doesn't have to call issue. But again, you did a good explanation on our show, so I guess listening to you and on Q90 on Kyrie, we get a better understanding, and we can totally understand what the bill entails and the different segments of the bill and how it affects, civil servants, and it's not going to bring them into poverty and stuff.
That's right.
Let me tell you again, this is an a bill for the members of the currency union, an ECU bill. This very same bill has been passed in Grenada, and in operation in Grenada has been passed in Dominica. And all the measures in that bill is already being taken place in Dominica. So it's just basically just to codify what is being placed, so make it transparent so the public can hold the government accountable and say, this is what you say in your bill, and this is why you're not doing this, why this has not been done.
Right.
Basically, this is what it is. But the measures in there is already being enforced.
Right.
Indeed.
All right. Thank you, John. And one thing before I go, let me just wish, because I grew up with Patrick John's eldest son, Renick, Skype, Kakapijon. We grew up together. I just want to wish him in this time of bereavement.
Yes.
Sincere condolences and hang in there, bro. I know he and PJ they were really tight, and we kind of split up, or he felt no way because when we started rebelling against Patrick, although we grew up together, it was something that he didn't appreciate us doing. He thought we would have supported him and his father, and we did not. We parted ways.
Yes.
But in times of bereavement, you have to bury all those things, Renick, and blessings.
Indeed.
In everything, give thanks, my brother. Thank you.
All right, thank you, my brother. Thank you for your contribution here tonight. And it's already 40 minutes after the hour of 10 o'clock, where we have to sort of shift gears a little bit on our discussion. As I said earlier in the interim of our program here, that we had actually another matter on the agenda that I wanted to discuss tonight. Of course, we will continue the discussion in our future programs on this bill. I'm sure it will come up in between our discussion as the consultation on this very important subject continue here in Dominica. But as we shift gears a bit, I want to just take a short break there and come right back to our next subject matter there. We'll spend rather the other 45 minutes discussing.
Your planning was strategic. O'Donnell. You make lawmakers panic, right? When you storm the Capitol building, then inside the bunker hiding, it's the same thing. Uncle Wood. When you incite violence, then you claim your innocence. Same thing, Uncle Wood.
Welcome back to you wherever you are listening across Dominica and throughout the world. Yes, again, this is the next level. We are live right here in the studio of Kyrie FM. Now, I want to spend some time going into the next remaining time that we have there, looking at this subject matter that we were discussing sometime over the last couple of days. On Saturday, we spent some time there talking about this issue in relation to whether or not the leader of the opposition and those who are advocating on the other side on the payroll of Mr. Choksi. And we asked the question, and since then there were some silent by them on that particular subject. But on Saturday, we also on the program on Saturday presented what was being new evidence being presented on by India News with regard to the current status with Mr. Choksi and what's going on with him at the PMH. And there were video footage that also presented showing him, in good condition, walking around, with no stick and looking, pretty like a healthy man at the China Friendship Hospital. He's been there for maybe going on 2 months now since he arrived illegally into our border and was picked up by the customs and the police, and since then have been facing some charges in the court. And so he's been back and forth, and his lawyers have been making a case for him and presenting sick documents claiming that he's not fit to be able to stand trial. So somehow someone was able to catch some footage of the gentleman walking in the China Friendship Hospital, in good condition. So this particular story came out on social media. So lo and behold now, here comes those in his defense. So this morning, I listened to, I think it was this morning or yesterday morning, but I think one of them, maybe yesterday morning. Or I listened yesterday morning. I listened to Loftus Dura with great interest and Matt Peltier on this particular subject. And they started by reading a report that was presented in the Sun newspaper, where they want to give Dominicans the impression that our police will be under investigation and that very soon we will hear about Scotland Yard, coming to Dominica and investigating our police. And they begin this fear-mongering thing in their whole discussion this morning about what the attorney, Justin Simon in Antigua, stated in regard to Mr. Chops's adoption, something that the leader of the opposition have been peddling where he has made several allegations against the police force, the customs, and the government by extension, without any evidence from him on the matter, although he sought to say that he have the evidence, which is something that he has always done for so many other matters that he have presented before the Dominica public. Now, on Saturday program, we played something for you, which really sort of gave a greater in-depth as to this foolishness that this guy have been talking about, Scotland Yard, and they've been pushing that as if something went wrong and Scotland has, well, I want to play this again for you, which I did on Saturday, this news item that particularly speaks to the matter being filed against Choxi's attorney, who, according to the report, may have fabricated evidence and did not present any evidence as to the claim that they have making both in London and in Dominica, and as a result may find himself in some hot water. I want to play this for you and then go a bit into some of what was being said by Matt Peltier and Loftus Dura there on the matter. Let's listen here.
Welcome, you're on The Nation at 5. I'm Anand Narasimhan, and ladies and gentlemen, we start with news just coming through, and this is an exclusive news break. Courtesy our investigations editor Manoj Gupta, and this is around the Choksi choke. And here is the reason why. There is a complaint that's been filed against Mehul Choksi's lawyer. Mehul Choksi's lawyer, the complaint that's been filed very clearly is questioning, and this is Michael Pollack, against whom a complaint has been filed in the United Kingdom based on certain assumptions that he's made, and these are the complaints. The heat is on Choksi, London-based lawyer Michael Pollack, and he has now been under the lens. A complaint has been filed against Pollack at the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, or the SRA, in England and Wales. And the reason why this complaint has been filed is some of the claims that Michael Pollack has been made. So SRA is likely to initiate an inquiry against Michael Pollack, and they are going to probe funding and also the alleged fraud in payments from Mehul Choksi. So that is one aspect. Then there is also another dynamic that comes, that the case has been filed by Pollack on Choksi's abduction against the case with Scotland Yard, and War Crimes Unit has violated rights. And it has also turned around and said there is no evidence to what he has told the media. He has not been able to produce any evidence. It's not based on facts. He's never conducted even the KYC checks against Choksi, breaching UK rules itself, because Mehul Choksi is a wanted man. Why is it that a UK-based lawyer has decided to fight his case? He's never conducted anti-money laundering checks against Mehul Choksi. There's a red corner notice issued against him, and there are certain guidelines under which the UK lawyers should be working. So these are the aspects which stand challenged with the SRA as far as Michael Pollack is concerned. And a person joining us with more details on that is Sanjay Suri. Sanjay, so the UK rules say that you have to do certain amount of KYC before you take on a client, and you cannot make claims without facts and without having proof to back your claims, especially when you filed a complaint. So Michael Pollack finds himself in a spot of bother here.
Well, and that spot of bother actually was evident from his own claims and from his own press conference. This group, Justice Abroad, purports to be a group driven by conscience and concerned with human rights violations around the world. But it was clear on their own admission that they were paid by the Choksi family to say what they were saying. So on the one hand, it was admittedly a group representing Choksi and speaking for Choksi. On the other hand, trying to suggest that they're an independent group and concerned with the human rights violations, that they have carried out an independent investigation and they are reporting its findings. So there was a clear fault line, a fundamental fault line on which this press conference rested, and there were very suspect claims that Scotland Yard has a special cell to investigate matters like this, that a complaint has been given to Scotland Yard, and some of their faithfuls in the media duly reported that at length and uncritically. But this is not a case clearly for Scotland Yard. It has no jurisdiction in this matter at all. And we have checked with Scotland Yard. We have not heard back from them, but there is no indication from them that they are investigating any such complaint.
So what happens next now, Sanjay? How does this impact the Mehul Choksi trials in Dominica and in Antigua and Barbuda?
Well, actually not at all. This was some sympathetic noise and misplaced sympathetic noise made in London, and the aim was to get media attention. A press conference was called. Several of us were present at that press conference. We attended it. I attended it myself. The aim clearly was to put a certain narrative across, and that followed a planting of this narrative in some bits of the media. And this was aiming to get attention and aiming to draw sympathy and support for Choksi, but it seems to have no bearing at all on the matters in progress in either Antigua or in the Dominican Republic. And in fact, we had the Antiguan Prime Minister Brown confirming just yesterday that they have had no communication from Scotland Yard in this matter.
So at this point, this person, this lawyer, and those who are being paid money by Mehul Choksi to try and talk up this entire human rights angle, they need to be very careful, because they have to do their KYC, and also their practice may just be in jeopardy if they take up this case. So that's where it is. This person was appearing across TV news channels and also on digital space, trying to advocate and with his advocacy for Mehul Choksi and trying to highlight his human rights, etc. Now he and the organization that was trying to do this themselves find themselves in a spot of bother. Sanjay Suri, thank you for your inputs.
Yes. So again, you know, I had to play this this news report for you because this story, this propaganda that the UWP and those who are indeed attempting to spread in Dominica about Scotland Yard and giving the public the impression that Scotland Yard is involved in this matter and investigating this matter. You heard the journalist there who attended the press conference that was held by Choksi's lawyers, who clearly, he says, you know, that there were those who were paid to say the things they were saying by the family, you know, and this is not a case, as he said, for Scotland Yard. So the Sun newspaper, which in Dominica, which the UWP and Matt Peltier and others referred to as, you know, creating fear in the country about Scotland Yard being involved and all that. We can put that to rest there. This is not in their jurisdiction. They are not investigating this particular matter, as have been claimed by those lawyers and what they have been saying. Now, we played that for you on Saturday. So the Workers' Party and Loftus-Dura and others all of a sudden got back on the ball and decided that they wanted to have a discussion on the quality now of the evidence that came out recently now, showing this man, you know, with a walking stick on one case and showing him on the other hand enjoying the hospital like it was a hotel that he was living, as if it's the Kempin's Key that is there. According to one person, some of us can't even go in a hospital and spend a week. We have to go home, but this man there for 2 months enjoying it like it's the Kempinski. So the best part there now is in the discussion with Matt Peltier and Loftus Duran. Yes, Matt Peltier had a little bit to say himself, and that's why I continue to ask them whether they are on the payroll. So he said this on the particular Matt mess. I want you to listen to something that Matt said. Matt said on that particular thing there. Let's listen to Matt Peltier there.
So I got some professional videographers involved to basically assess whether this video was in fact genuine.
He gets some, you hear me? He gets some professional videographers involved. Let's listen to one of his professional videographers.
Now, if you watch that video properly, you can see in that video, it's only one video that was taken where Mr. Chucks is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But the frame of that video, it is replayed over and over to kind of make a fuller video. And so that is a level of concoction that went on in that video in and out of itself. That is what I deduced from me having seen that video.
So that was, when I heard Matt Peltier said he was going to bring his professional, I figure you have a forensic person there. Well, he bring Loftus Dura. Loftus Dura, we have been questioning him about him being on Chucks' payroll. But he claimed that it was concocted. Anyway, that is what he said. But they accepting that the photograph was taken. They also went on to say who they think may have taken it or may not have taken it. But they came in the defense of it anyway. The other thing that struck me... Yes, Terence.
They could not be referring to the video, to this video, because I have 4 different videos.
They're referring to the video you have there, Terence.
4 different videos.
Yes.
Of 5 minutes and 53 seconds. 5 minutes and 53 seconds.
Yes.
Right? Of videos.
Yes.
Showing Chucksy walking around. You see in his face 5 different videos clearly on my phone.
So they claim that was concocted.
There was no concocted, nothing. This is the video of passing nurses, greeting nurses, talking to whoever passing there, walking with a stick, freely walking with a stick. His hand is holding the phone, both hands holding phone, texting. I mean...
So Matt Peltier say how it was an old video.
Matt, you want me to send you the videos?
And but what struck me though about this, why I'm reading this discussion, this angle, is how they came to try to denounce the real videos where you see the nurses and you actually see in the hospital, and to give the impression that is not the man, because Matt Peltier say how the video showing him from the back and like you cannot recognize, so they these professionals on Q95 and so on claim now that we have a rush. Listen to Matt Peltier there.
What is the rush to bring this guy to justice? At the end of it, if he's guilty, then let him pay. But what is the rush at this time? And I heard on the weekend some program there on the other radio station, Kyrie. There's almost a plot there by the operatives on the other side to find Chucksy guilty. If he's guilty, as I said, let it be. Let justice roll. But the rush and the propaganda on the other side...
No. But what is the propaganda?
What is the propaganda? Let me talk to Matt a little bit. Matt Peltier, Chucksy is alleged to have stolen $2 billion in a Punjab bank. He's a fraud. Not only that, he is a diamantier. He sells diamond, and he sold a lot of diamonds fake diamonds to people. That is the allegation against him. Chucksy has to go to answer his case because the money he took or allegedly took, he must have it hidden in either a Swiss bank or whatever bank. And the poor people of India have poverty. And the poor people of India money cannot get their money from the bank because Chucksy take $2 billion and take it away, put it in some banks outside of the world. Chucksy have to go back to answer his case, and if he is found guilty, so that the government of India can issue restitution order to reclaim the monies.
No.
So when Chucksy stay in away, and he stays for 10, 15, 7, 8 years, and he keep on spending the money, giving lawyers. I wonder who else is on the payroll.
No.
So
Yeah.
the people of India will not be able to get back their money so that the poor people of India can get back their money.
No.
This is what it is, Matt. It is the man is a fugitive. He is a fugitive on the run.
No, Clarence. No, he claimed that we want to rush.
Rush what?
First of all, it's 1 or 2 months now this matter have been circulating in the social media and Dominica. We have never taken up this issue as a subject matter on our program because we allow for the law to deal with the matter like the law have always did in Dominica. So these are not issues that we deal with. But the manner in which the UWP rush, and I want to bring the word rush into it, rush into defending this man, brought around the questions that we are asking. So, for example, when we heard the leader of the opposition on international press and locally on the media challenging our authority about illegality, bringing the talk about human rights into play, and lying about Scotland Yard and all sorts of other things that are involved in investigating when these things are not happening, and claiming that as if he have evidence of some kind of abduction taking place of this man, when the Antiguan Prime Minister is saying there is no evidence on their side, when we cannot prove it on our side. Not even their lawyers can present it where they are presented in UK. They are under investigation rather for having fabricated the evidence. So we are not rushing Matt Peltier and Loftus-Dewar and others and Linton into no kind of justice against the man. My issue and our issue we have taken up here is the fact that they have come into defending a criminal when they try to crucify everybody else before, claiming that because you know that person, they deem you a criminal. But they are there putting their necks on the block. And I'm asking the question, why? Why are they against Dominica for a criminal who is deemed to have committed crimes, the very crimes that they say is crimes against all kind of whatever you can call. So the best part is though, Matt say, well, Matt doesn't fabricate evidence there. We don't bring false forensic person to speak on issues on this program. Whenever we bring and present an issue, we present our backup for it. But one of the interesting part, though, when Loftus-Dewar was giving all his talk in defense of Choksi, and he know what kind of sickness Choksi have, where he suffering in his brain, where he bleeding in his brain, and they want him to go to Trinidad for treatment, so that from Trinidad he can be taken from Trinidad and be sent to India, and Choksi wants to go to America, where Choksi have whatever doctor have already said down paper, and the paper is already. So Loftus-Dewar came with this long story that I just give you there, and I just highlighted some of what he said because if I have to play the whole thing for it too long. So after he said all of that now, Matt Peltier asked him another question. And I want to play that one for you because that one they catch me. You know, I asking them if they're on the payroll. If these things they're doing there against Dominica is because they are being paid to do it. Now, you heard the previous journalist who said that there are those, it was clear that they were paid, and he was speaking about the people who initially presented this whole case that they tried to bring the government, the police, the customs into some kind of kidnapping kind of thing and committing crimes, international crime, like as if the Hague is coming to now investigate them by the Mr. Them noise, So they asked Loftus this question there. Listen to that.
Any comments there from family members on the ground? No?
But I will keep that one to my chest for now.
Okay. All right. All right.
I want to play that one for you. Hold me there.
Any comments there from family members on the ground? No?
But I will keep that one to my chest for now.
Okay. All right.
So I want to ask Loftus, why you want to keep that one to your chest? Why you want to keep the question? But ask you, but he didn't want to tell us about the communication they have in. So he come there in full defense of Choksi. He denounces in the video. He even accusing who they call for there to be Scotland Yard investigation into how this video was taken. There's one kind of thing.
Let me tell you something about Scotland Yard, right?
Yes.
Scotland Yard is the metropolitan police of England.
Yes.
Scotland Yard cannot come to Dominica, an independent country, to do an investigation if the government of Dominica does not request their services from Britain, from the government of Britain.
Right.
Right? So if the government has a case to solve, let us say a kidnapping case, a murder case, whatever case, and we do not have the expertise in Dominica to solve that case,
Right.
the government of Dominica will request from the government of England, not from Scotland Yard, from the government of England, the assistance of Scotland Yard to solve the case in Dominica. Right? If Britain is investigating the case of any matter of a British person, and the Scotland Yard investigate it, the British government will ask of the government of Dominica to allow Scotland Yard to come and investigate their British national. Not a Dominican. Scotland Yard has no authority to investigate a Dominican. They're not within no Dominican is under the jurisdiction of Scotland Yard.
Which is exactly what the guy, the journalist, stated, you know. And
unless if that Dominican did a crime in England. If you have like the guy from St. Thomas, the Granby guy from St. Thomas, who did the crime in St. Thomas, then the FBI or the police in America can come down with the permission of the government of Dominica to investigate that guy to and to try to extradite him.
Right.
That is the only way you can do it. But if I am in Dominica, you cannot just come, FBI or Scotland Yard cannot just come to Dominica to investigate me.
But that's the propaganda.
If the government of Dominica, and I did not do any crime in England.
And that's the propaganda, Clarence, that they put in the Sun newspaper.
I mean,
and they have their Kimberly Benjamin reading it, and like it's such a... so they put that out there to create in the minds of their listeners that as if there is something fishy, there is something going on, and blah, 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 blah.
If Scotland had have to go to Antigua,
no,
the British government, that is, what is his name again, the madman?
Talking about Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson. Right. Boris Johnson have to make a request of our Prime Minister. Say, look, we have a situation on our hand. We need Scotland Yard to come and investigate a matter of a British national.
Right.
Of crime commit in thing.
Well, I would think if Scotland Yard doing anything there is to pick up Choxy, just like how they pick up which one they pick up there in England. They are one of the cousin or whoever they have there.
They have, yeah.
No, I want to play something Clarence there of Matt Peltier said. Yes.
Here's one professional opinion. Okay. It is only one video you can make out the guy, meaning Choxy. It's the one where he's standing with a stick. The other two is backed videos, meaning videos that were done some time ago, of somebody walking at different times in two different shirts.
But Simeon, those fellas not easy. I'm looking at a video there. Choxy standing with a stick in his in the door. He's one hand on the door, and think so. The other video you see in Choxy clearly on his phone. He's walking without a stick.
Yeah, same
he's
slippers.
Walking forward here, same slippers, same thing. The same time, walking and he's on his phone. You see in one there, you see just his back with a red thing on the wall, and then he's back there. Look, another one with the same place. He walk in from the door. Look,
I wish I could show it to your listeners because on Facebook, because I did ask the technician to put it up, but he was not able this afternoon there. But we'll show it to you all. But
four different videos. Choxy walking healthy Clean.
So
look at Choxy.
That says old video.
Old video walking. And look the nurse coming out of the door pointing at Choxy.
Anyway,
with a mask on her head.
All I know is the video looking brand new in the brand new China Friendship Hospital. But the other part is, let's listen to the other part there.
So that is why on Saturday afternoon.
No, that's not what I want. I want to go back to the one where let me see if I can get it for you there. Yes, I want to go to this one there where Matt talking about Scotland Yard. Listen to Matt Peltier there. The fella there have guts. I hope he listening. Matt says Scotland Yard investigating. Boy, you have to stop that lie, Dominica boy, Matt Peltier boy. If all you want to do some proper journalism or whatever it is, get all you think right.
Scotland Yard is investigating based on this report there we just heard from Kimberly Benjamin, coming from the Sun newspaper, quoting senior counsel Justin Simon.
Yes, coming from the Sun newspaper.
Yeah, Justin Simon, who is the lawyer of Choxy and Antigua. What do you expect him to say?
Boy, so I want to know, Linton had said that he want to meet with the Choxy family. Where he said that.
And what about the family? Did anybody try to contact you in that sense?
No, but I think it's time that somebody that I make contact with some member of the family, because as a politician in Dominica, as somebody who sits in the parliament as the leader of the opposition, I think it will be good, because this matter is dragging on and on and on. I would like to hear exactly from the family what is going on.
Yeah, man. So Linton want to hear exactly, he want to meet with the family. He think it would be good for him. But obviously, he looking for somebody missing $1 billion that Choxy have.
Choxy have billions of dollars in Swiss bank, probably in Panama, probably anywhere he hide the money.
So
the Indian government has to get him as quickly as possible.
Well, Clarence,
before he finish spending the money, so that the Indian government can have a restitution order to claim back this money to pay the poor people. And Matt Peltier, India and Loftus. India have poor people. And it is poor people's money the man has stolen, and he is galvanizing and probably can pay anybody. So I would like to ask whether Q95 is getting paid from Choxy. I'm not saying there, I'm asking. And if they are getting paid from Choxy or any Choxy family, if they did a KYC, a know your customer, know where the funds are coming from. Because I am asking FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, to be on the alert to ensure that you have the authority that any deposit over $10,000, the source of funds must be stipulated. So the persons who are involved and supporting Choxy, they will have to do their KYC, know your customer, know where the money is coming, because Choxy is a fugitive on the run. He has a lot of people's money, bank money, that he has stolen. So if you do not do a KYC, you will be in trouble.
Hot water.
Hot water. Because you will know India right now. If you did not know, you can say you did not know. The kind time come you did not know, you did not know. But now you know Choxy is a fugitive. And to be dealing with Choxy, a fugitive on the run, puts you at risk.
Let's take a call, but before we take the call, let's listen to Loftus again. I want to ask Linton what he holding close to his chest like Loftus. I want to know.
Any comments there from family members on the ground? No?
But I will keep that one to my chest for now.
Okay.
You keep it to your chest.
All right.
Let's go to the telephone. Make the call short and sweet on that one there. Good evening on the local line.
Simeon, good morning, good night, good afternoon.
Yes, you give me. Hey, Panda, what's up?
I'm good. Dr. Clarence.
How you doing?
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm good.
What time it is by you now? No, it's about
it is actually
3 o'clock.
Like 30 minutes to 4.
4 o'clock, yeah.
In the morning.
Yes, I.
Yes. Yeah. But you had a very interesting discussion, you know. To me, just when I heard this thing of Matthias Peltier this morning, when he trying to say that he spoke to an expert. They always have experts, eh?
Yes, boy.
Expert. and you know, the expert is always, you know, you remember Marlon Jr. was an expert as well.
Yes.
So I don't know whether they get the schooling to become expert, but they always have experts. But then he's saying the video was doctored. It is two different videos.
Yeah.
And then you had the senior counsel Loftus, well, the Queen Counsel Loftus,
Princess Loftus,
coming and he said this is one video, so they contradict themselves one time. So I'm saying, but whether it's two video or one video, isn't the person in the both videos Choksi? Isn't it the same Choksi that have a stick in one video and the same Choksi that don't have a stick in another video? Isn't that the same Princess Margaret Hospital that Choksi, well, Dr. China Friendship Hospital that Choksi is in?
And the hospital looking nice on video. Oh my
You
God.
understand? So how can you tell us that this is a doctored video? But doctored video taken where? Who took video of Choksi anywhere else? So, what is very interesting to me, I'm you. If Choksi has done nothing wrong, why Choksi don't agree to go back to India? You remember Siko Seko? When Julian Prevost asked for him to come? Or they said, Siko Seko had no problem, he did nothing wrong.
But they were desperate. They wanted Seko. The UWP was on the campaign for Seko. Seko came back.
Seko came back free will.
Yes.
He came back and he came back free will.
Yes.
Julian Prevost said he has to come back. He came back. The DPP.
He came back. He answered his case.
Yeah.
And as the man always said, I'm innocent.
Yeah.
No, Matt is saying, like, there is justice in Antigua. Why can't they send him in Antigua? But whether he man go to Antigua, India, or Interpol, wherever, what does that have to do with anybody? The question is, Mr. Clarence, the man allegedly committed a crime. He is wanted both by India and by Interpol. They want him. Why are you so perturbed? Why are you so engaged? Why you get yourself so caught up in wanting that man to go in a specific area?
Well, I should tell you, boy.
Why is you want him to go?
You know, one thing that struck me is their fight right now is like as if you saw and say these guys are the lawyers representing Choksi right now. Like they're the propaganda machine now. Just like what the propaganda machine they talk about that was paid. The news is telling you that was paid. It seems like they are the propaganda machine now in Dominica that ready to take everything and make it look like it is, you know, it is concocted. It is they don't want. It's like they have a plan, pushing a special agenda. And I asked them a simple question, you know, was whether Linton and Loftus and all of them are on the payroll. But the fact that I heard Loftus say this morning, said to Matt Peltier that, you know, when Mal asked him about the communication in the family, that he holding that, yes, close to his chest, boy. And the way he said that there, I mean,
well, he knows why he's holding it in me.
Yes, he holding that one close.
I said, Mr. Clarence will remember on your show, I said in the early speech, based on my understanding, the United Workers' Party wants, Lennox, them wanted him to go to Antigua, based on what I gather from the grapevine. Mr. Clarence, you remember that clearly?
Yeah.
And I said they want him to go back to Antigua, because if you go back to Antigua, that's where they will get their money, because the deal is, based on what I understand, look, fight my case, champion my case, make me go back to Antigua, here is some money, and when I go back to Antigua, you will get the rest. And that is what I understand they want him to go to Antigua for. Because I understand that he got some money in Dominica from the family, and they want him, they're fighting for him to go back to Antigua. Because if he goes to India,
I not even sure Choxy want to go back and sing. And Choxy looking too comfortable in the China Friendship Hospital.
All of them give up. All of them give up right now. If you notice the way they're talking now, all of them give up.
Anyway,
no, definitely.
Short and sweet.
Will not go back to Antigua. They know that.
Thank you, my brother.
In Interpol. Okay, my brother?
Yes, I.
But Simeon,
let's take
my
that.
concern is,
that
how
forward.
comes Choxy's wife has not come to see her husband? This is a man who bleeding in his brain. And the wife cannot come to Dominica to check on her husband?
Let's take a call there. Overseas like caller, good evening. Short and sweet.
Hey, good night. Good night. Simpson, what's up? Mr. Christian, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm having fun.
Yes, I.
But I listen to you all. I'm saying,
yeah.
I had an Indian guy on my car today. When I heard him speak today, right? You know, I was dropping him to a hotel. So I said, you from India? So I told him about, as soon as I tell the guy about Choxy, you know, and the man know everything. He said to me, man, is what Choxy do to them. I should have recorded this, you know, while I talking to him. And you telling me them guys in Dominica, people like Matt and them talking about Choxy or they defending Mr. Man.
Yes.
I told the guy, I told him, he told me he never heard about Dominica, but he heard that same gentleman in Dominica. Right? So I told him what the opposition people want him to go back to Antigua. He said no, they're supposed to send him back to India for what he did to them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
While I was talking to Mr., I should have recorded Mr. and just send it for you all to hear the amount of things that man do to people in India, you know.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's while I talking on us, as soon as I tell Mr. about Chuck, he start laughing, you know. Right? Mr. Tell me, Mr. did so much things to them.
Yes.
You check what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
And the man, even a video, the man have to defend trucks, you know?
Yes,
Come on, man.
Yes, I.
Come on, man.
Yes, I.
Okay, man, I know the time is short, man. Anyone, you'll be safe, man.
All right, my brother, take it easy there. Yeah, man, they're going for...
What I want to ask you now, Simeon, why Choxy's wife has not been into Dominica? Is she... Let me ask a question. Is she involved in getting Choxy into Dominica so that knowing Choxy might go to India, so the loot will be for her alone or whatever it is? I'm just asking a question.
Well, it's a question you ask and I can't
I'm
say.
asking a question. If your
listening.
husband is in Dominica,
how come she don't land there?
Loftus is saying, oh, the man is bleeding in his brain. Poor PT. The man is bleeding in his brain.
Princess Loftus is dealing with Pretty. Pretty is her name. And you are Princess Loftus. Anyway, let's take a fast call there.
Why his wife hasn't come? I'm asking now, his wife.
On the overseas like that caller.
He's been getting him to Dominica.
Good evening.
Good night, gentlemen.
Yes. Hi.
You show your program well hot tonight, Mr. Clarence. Good evening. You on the hot too as well. Anyhow, you see me and you don't know by now. You should know that volley always like volley. Okay, but it's ever fed always flock together, you know.
They flock it together.
And nobody doesn't tell me. Nobody cannot tell me. These people doesn't chopstick payroll. They on chopstick payroll self.
Loftus is only that close to his chest.
Exactly. And Matt, no. He working for his Matt. He working for his ogre. According to his Nigerian. Linton is his ogre. So you have to do. Yeah, you know, 295.
Scotland Yard. They fooling people in Dominica about Scotland Yard and how the police have to be on the lookout because they'll be answering some serious questions.
Answering questions from who?
Yes, go ahead.
You don't see that they play up the minds in the minds of their supporters.
That's what they do. And then they have them saying all kind of things after that. They put a sensation on them and they have them saying all foolishness you can think about. Let me tell you something.
And Michelle, but when you're listening, all these people that have this UWDP party, all of them is the same thing. Because I myself, I listen to the people in St. Lucia. It's the same cry about this kind of people there.
Yeah, hey Lord. Lord have mercy on us.
Anyhow, Mr. Simeon and Mr. Clarence, drive safely. Nice show.
Will do.
Stay safe.
All right, my dear, take care there. Let's see, because we have a local line there. The telephone hot, all the lines ringing. Let's take a local line. Call us short and sweet. Good evening on the local line. Short and sweet. Are you there with me? All right. I suspect he was really short and he was really sweet.
What is the interest in Choksi? Choksi is a fugitive on the run. He's running away from India. And Indian government has every single right under the sun to get Choksi back to India. They have every right to do whatever legally possible wherever Choksi is to get Choksi back to India.
Don't tell that to Lennox Linton.
Whatever right it is. If it was the United, just like the United States or British or any other country, if it was a country like Israel, Israel would have picked him up already. Come into your thing and pick him up already.
Don't tell that to Linton, what you say there, and don't tell that
to Loftus.
Let's see.
Any comments there from family members on the ground? No?
But I will keep that one to my chest for now.
Okay, all right.
India has every right under the sun to get Choksi back into India in any way, wherever he is. No matter how he gets where he is, India has every right under the sun to get Choksi back to India to answer his charges so that India can lay the hands on the monies he have in the foreign banks where he deposited the 2.5 or whatever billion dollars so that India can get hold of it. This is what it is, because the poor people of India are suffering $2 billion in a bank. Matt Peltier and Loftus Duran. You have to, as quickly as possible, India has every single right under the sun. Nobody can tell me I can support a fugitive on the run. I cannot. Once you are a fugitive on the run, every legal means have to be taken wherever you are, no matter how you get where you are. It's a different issue. But every legal means have to be to get you back to answer your charges. You cannot do your crime and run away to another country.
Let's take a call there. Caller on the overseas line there. I want to bring the senior minister, trying to get the senior minister on the line there. But let's take this call still.
Okay, take him.
No, but go right ahead because I'm trying to get him on the other line.
No, I just want, I mean, the video Simeon, and I mean, you have me cracking up, Loftus Duran and Matt are just two clowns, my boy. Two clowns, two buffoons. Court, you're not coming to Dominica to investigate what? These guys are two idiots that don't know what they're talking about. But get Senior Minister Simeon. That's all I have to say.
All right, there, partner. Yes, I. Yes, Gareth, go ahead.
Scotland Yard cannot come to Dominica and investigate any Dominicans in Dominica. They just cannot do it. If the Dominican commit a crime in England, if a Dominican commit a crime in England, Dominica has an extradition treaty. Scotland Yard itself cannot do. All they can ask the government to do is to arrest X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z have to go to the court and face their extradition treaty. Scotland Yard cannot come and investigate anybody in Dominica. The only way Scotland Yard can investigate somebody in Dominica, if a Dominican commit a crime, and the police cannot solve the crime, or they don't have the expertise to solve the crime, they will request of the British government assistance to solve that crime. And the British government will use the Metropolitan Police, which is Scotland Yard. The nickname for the Metropolitan Police of England is Scotland Yard. They will send their experienced detective in that particular crime to assist the police of Dominica to solve the crime. The police of Dominica is not investigating any crime. So the police in Dominica has to make a request, just like they will normally. If the police, somebody have to come and investigate any crime, it would be in packs. CARICOM impacts because we have our trained investigators in the region. They will go to impacts first. If impacts cannot solve the crime, then the government will either ask the American government to send down FBI to assist our police, or ask the British government to send down Scotland Yard, the Metropolitan Police of England, to assist our police. But Scotland Yard on its own cannot just come to Dominica and say they're investigating police as well as those clowns are talking. That cannot happen. That never happened. That cannot happen. These are clowns. Two clowns on radio talking a whole lot of nonsense. According to Bernard Wiltshire, talking a whole lot of balderdash to people. So Simeon, the fact of the matter are we asking? I'm laughing because this is a big joke now. Because I'm seeing I have.
Let's see if we have a question there, Clarence, from a caller. Caller, are you there on the line?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yes.
Yeah. We heard the Prime Minister say that Mr. Chokchi's rights must be respected.
Yes.
Does he have any right at all? And can Clarence or you explain what right does he have under humanitarian grounds or what?
Well, as to his rights and whatever he have his rights, he have his lawyers, he's fighting his matter. And I don't have an issue with that. That's not our issue about his rights and whatever he doesn't have. Our issue is the defense that the opposition has come to his defense in the manner they have done. We are asking the questions why. And that whatever rights he have. I mean, he has his lawyers, they represent him where his rights is concerned. Yes. That was just a question?
All right, yeah, for now.
Yeah, all right, man.
He has his rights. Mm-hmm. The matter is in court. He has his rights. And the Indian government has every right to come down and try and get Choksi. Whether Choksi was in Dominica, he was in Guadeloupe, or he was in St. Martin, the Indian government has every right to, wherever he is, to try and get him back to India to answer his cases. Because the Indians, with no government.
I have the senior minister there on the line there, Clarence. Senior minister, good evening to you. I'm trying to reach you there. The telephone line just get hot.
I'm trying to reach you there. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Clarence, what's happening?
We're having fun here.
Well, I'm happy you say when it's short and sweet, so I'm really going to give it to you short.
Anyhow.
I mean, this is a very twist. Since Matt came back, there seemed to be a new twist to the whole Choksi saga.
Yes.
But I in the clips you played, I think I noticed what I'd call some contradictions.
Yes.
And even Lofty too, because a few days ago, Lennox Linton said, it's time for me to meet the family.
Yes, that's right.
He had not met the family. I don't think he finished to explain why he wanted to meet the family. And that's a question, but why does Lennox want to meet the family?
I want to know.
But only today I hearing now that the family paid some money to some guys to spread some propaganda.
That's right.
Based on this thing, this clip for you guys paid from England.
Yes. They're stating that clear. Seems so.
And it look like it's the wife that have the money.
Somebody have it, the family.
But Lofty say he keeping that one close to his chest. Now let me tell you something, Simeon. It's either you meet the family or you don't meet the family.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't meet the family, you say, no, I don't meet the family.
Right.
But Saga, you holding that one close to your chest. I want to speculate that Lofty already meet the family.
Well, it seems obvious from his response.
But if Lofty with the family, I hope so. Lofty cooking Clinton. If Lofty holding, whether you meet the family or not, and you say you're holding that one close to your chest, my brother. You're not saying no, you never met them. And it will be easy. No, I have not met them.
Simple as that.
Lennox on the other side dribbling now because Lennox read where money passed. The family paying people to spread fake news and false propaganda.
You want to meet them.
And Lennox has been in that for a while. So how come Lofty can meet these people and Lennox can meet them? So Lofty hiding something from Linton.
Either or.
So to me, that is a contradiction.
Yes,
The other contradiction is Matt is asking, what is the rush?
Yes.
What is the rush to get the man out? Let the man relax, let the man breathe.
Yes.
Why Lennox told the Prime Minister, boss, go stop from and let go the man.
Imagine that.
Remember that part?
Yes, they told me if the government should drop everything and really
everything and send him and go, but not to send him India.
Yes.
And Brennan was right. If Choksi goes to India, then matter dead.
Yes.
So those lawyers, they have nothing to play on to Indian lawyers, but I'm not sure if he'll see the light of day. So if he goes to India, he's lost.
Right.
Nobody will ever see or hear about Choksi again.
Right.
But if he's in Antigua, where he continues to fight a case for the Antiguan government has declared him persona non grata, he's fighting the matter in court.
Yes.
Now, if he goes to Antigua, his court matter continues.
That's right.
And I suspect that is where the ATM machine is Antigua.
Ah.
So men now get in there, is Antigua the man was.
Yeah, that's true.
So on.
That's true.
I mean, the man didn't have no bank account in Dominica, you know.
That's true.
And if money passing, then I suspect that money there's somewhere in Antigua. Because any dollar from Choski's account, somebody will buy with that.
Yes.
So it look like there's a money in Antigua under the control of certain persons who calling the shots from Antigua. And these little fellas down here now, my brother, they join a little change around there, but the big money itself is in Antigua. So if you send Choksi back to Antigua, then the matter continues.
Right.
The court matter continues and the ATM machine continues to work.
Right.
But if you send him to India, now everything dead.
That machine don't work again for them.
That machine can work in India. The current is 320 in India, so this machine cannot work.
That's why when the journalist asked Lennox Linton, well, the government appears to want Choksi to get back to India. What do you want? He said, well, we want the law to take place. And he has gotten citizenship under the citizenship program in Antigua, and therefore it's like he should be treated as a CARICOM national and go back to India. So also Linton is not saying, well, we want him to go back.
These fellas are harboring, they aiding and abetting a criminal. You understand? They aiding and abetting a criminal, and they offering that criminal protection.
Yes.
That is what's happening there.
That's what I picked up from the discussion.
It's being afforded protection by these people who all bent will sacrifice themselves, their children, their family, to offer Choksi protection. And you're asking who on the payroll. I don't know who on the payroll, but there has to be a financial consideration.
Yes.
Nobody takes that risk with a very high profile. In fact, they're telling you now, and Clarence is right. FBI cannot just land in Kenfield Airport or Melville Airport on a plane.
Yes.
And say they come to investigate anything about Choksi. We are an independent country. They must seek our permission to come.
Right.
But if Interpol is involved in that matter, then these agencies, this organization, the network. You understand? So Interpol cannot be working against the British people.
Right.
So there is a network between them. So Interpol cannot be saying on one side we have this criminal and we have an arrest or a notice of for his arrest, and at the same time the British intelligence will tell you, well, we come in there to protect Choksi.
Right.
It's another contradiction.
I find that too.
It's a contradiction.
I find that too.
Because Interpol is the international police.
Right.
That's what it means.
Right.
It means that the Interpol is made up of several countries. It will be interesting to find out who makes up this Interpol body.
The headquarters
you
in
understand?
France.
And Karen, help me. You seem to be an expert on that. Would the British intelligence be part of Interpol?
Britain, the government of Britain, that is government of Britain is part of Interpol.
Thank you very much. So where this son, well, that newspaper in his son is another fake information.
Yes.
That is being put out because if the British government, my brother, if you are right, Clarence, and the British government is part of Interpol, and Interpol has an arrest, a notice or a red alert on this man, then you'd expect the British government to have an arrest. So the only thing the British government can do here is to take Mr. away.
Yeah.
is to make me take me away to fulfill the international obligation in terms of security.
Right.
So now what the part I like and Loftus sits into the doctor. It looks like he examined all parts. All parts of Choksi.
Yes, I find that
too.
too.
He like to examine parts and body parts. So what he don't tell us yet is what part he examined or he didn't examine. Because he said he man bleed into his brain.
Yes.
He bleed into his nose. He bleed into his ears. He bleed into his everywhere. It have a hole he bleed in.
And you have a specialist doctor in America.
Yes, and he's an expert. He is. He love the part. Interestingly, he keeping whether you meet the family very close to his heart. And don't forget when Matt was not there.
Yes.
It's Lofty that was running the Choksi matter.
He peddling, talking to princess.
He that started that.
Yeah.
He that on the radio pushing all this propaganda.
Yes.
And Lennox behind him, following him.
Full speed.
But it look like Lofty have something them boys looking for. Because Lofty keeping his relationship with the Indian family close to his chest.
Close to his chest.
He's not letting that go for no. He's sleeping with that on his chest. He's not giving that to nobody.
Nobody at all.
You hear me, my brother?
Matt don't get in a piece of that.
Matt looking for his now because Matt wants to know, well, what is the rush? So while Lincoln telling Skerrit, you, Prime Minister Skerrit, can go stock farm and release him, and immediately Matt said, no, wait a little bit still. Because as long as Choksi here, man will draw. So don't be surprised if we have men, the United Workers' Party lawyer, leader, everybody fighting over Choksi.
Yes.
Because Choksi is a price settle.
Yes.
Choksi is the one that let me go do, so everybody want that goose called Choksi.
So let's keep him here.
Let's keep him here. But the point is, Timo, these men are aiding, protecting, defending, not a Dominican criminal.
No.
None of them have seen the man, None of them know the person, Choksi could well Choksi is a larger blessing to stand them, Senor. They don't know the man.
I know.
They have not seen him. They have not heard about him.
Yes.
But there's somebody who knows Choksi. There's somebody who knows the depth of Choksi pocket. And there's somebody who tells us, man, my brother, as long as we can keep Choksi in Dominica or in the region, and that's a scheme. You're not even sure how wide this thing is wider than we think.
Yes, it is very wide because
Choksi, every minute Choksi sick.
Yes.
Choksi can go to court. That's delaying tactics, my brother.
I'm telling you. I
hear he filing for some judicial review, more wasting time.
Yes.
Because Choksi know that he heading to India. But man, when you go to Antigua, UWP, they fighting for him to go to Antigua. For obvious reasons. Let's keep the ATM machine working. And let's keep talking, let's talk nonsense. So Matt joined the thing now because it looked like it have a larger somewhere. And Matt said looking to see if it have anything there for him in it.
Well, since Matt came back, Matt has been trying to keep the story alive. And Lofty now appearing to be the man.
Lofty is the big man.
Yeah, the man there.
Lofty alone not know the family. Lofty alone not know the family.
So
and Lofty not telling nobody.
He calling that close to his chest.
Well, unless Lofty protecting somebody, because there's somebody else who have interest in meeting the family.
That's what we know.
Lennox Clinton want to meet the family. It's about time. So long I there talking, so I there defend all you. When we going to meet?
Well, I wondered though when he answered that question whether it is because he met the family why he maybe say he want to meet them, because it was strange how he went about saying it. It reminds me of when he was asked about his travel to St. Kitts with Edison and Earl at the same time. And
you're not a lawyer.
You're
not an investigator. That is a high-level criminal matter. High-level criminal matter. You're talking about a $2 billion crime we're talking about.
Yes.
You're talking about swindling people out of their money by selling them false diamonds.
Yes.
That is public knowledge. How do you, as the leader of a political party, aspiring to lead a country, how do you make that big sacrifice to put your future career on the line, to put your local and international reputation on the line, because you decided to defend and to be sympathetic and making trouble?
Yes.
Causing the government.
Yes, the police, the customs.
Causing the police, causing the government. telling Scarrett, you must let go Chokshi. Don't worry about this court matter. We're not interested in no case. This justice, law, and constitutionality I just talk about, he set all that aside.
Yes.
That doesn't make no sense to him now. He's not interested in no constitution and what the law say. That's not his business. Let go Chokshi, send Chokshi Antigua.
Yeah, man.
That's one of Clinton concern.
Set him free. Give him bail.
Let him man free. Let him man. No. Send him to Antigua.
Yes. Drop
You
the
don't
charge.
set him free.
For that matter, drop the charges and just send him back.
Just send him back. Just send him back to Antigua. Let him go and continue his fight. Because they say that is not a Dominican issue. That is an Antiguan issue. So send him Antigua for him to for the court matter to continue. So somebody there in the ATM in Antigua now just punching the button on as long as Chucky in Antigua, the ATM will continue to spit out money. And who are benefiting it, let them take the benefit in it. But do not use the innocent people even of Dominica, because tomorrow morning you hear them UWPs repeating the same foolishness.
Yes, and I mean...
And some of them believe it, Simeon. So some of them knows bullshit.
Yes.
But the ordinary UWP on the ground believe that their party leader and Loftus and Matt, all of them correct.
Yes.
But me and you have identified the contradictions in the story, and I just pointed out two of them. They're not saying I would like to, if you want to be the family, he has not met the family. But Loftus said that whatever he and the family have, it's close to his chest.
Yeah, man. By that one, the boy holding that close.
You only that close, the man, that is his word.
Matt, I cannot tell you that.
I never met the family, but that's nothing to hold to your chest. You don't meet the family, don't meet the family.
Exactly.
I don't meet them, full stop.
And if he plays...
2 words.
Senior Minister,
I have not met them. 5 words.
Yeah.
What is all this holding chest about?
And if he playing paparazzi and want to report, well, report on what the concerns the family may have had now.
And none of them ball into meet the family. He's dying to, that is his only wish. The only wish is to meet the family because he's leader of the opposition. What does that have to do? That is not a political matter. That's a criminal matter.
Right.
So how do you get yourself as leader of the opposition associated deep in bed with a criminal of the century?
Yes.
That's the criminal. Chuck is the criminal of the century. In fact, those we know.
Yes.
That's the biggest criminal that we're talking about now in Dominica for the time being. And his biggest defender, his biggest sympathizer, his biggest lobbyist is Lennox Linton and the United Workers' Party.
Yep.
What does that say to you, Simo?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
And he wants to meet the family, and now we hear, the family have money payment to spread lies and propaganda.
Because they found out in the very same Great Britain that they're talking about there, where the journalist who claimed that he attended the press conference held by the lawyer, that they found out that the family were paying people to put out their propaganda and to create...
So the family paying to put out propaganda, whether it's in Antigua, whether it's in Dominica, in St. Kitts, wherever they get an avenue to put out propaganda, they will pay. They're willing to pay.
Yes.
And the family have money. There is money.
And whenever...
They're willing to pay for the services of anybody who would help them to spread their propaganda.
That's what it seems there, right there in Dominica. It looks like the very thing that they're talking about that is happening over there.
The leader of the opposition want to meet the family.
Well, he's hearing what he's hearing.
If he's met the family, he say he not answering that.
You holding that
answer?
Close to his chest.
I have not. But after you holding that close to your chest, you don't know where to steal that. You don't know where to touch that.
No.
It raises some flags, red flags.
Oh yes, oh yes. There's a lot.
There's blue flags, Simeon.
A lot going on inside of there with them blue flags on them.
My brother, short and sweet.
Yes,
I meet your criteria. What is short and sweet?
You have no problem with it. Always good.
But I mean, let's look at that.
Yes.
Look at that. I mean, the debate has now shifted from Chosky. We know what Chosky wants.
Yes.
We know what games Chosky playing.
That's right.
And we know Chosky. Not even say Chosky walking. I saw one of the Sarans say, yeah, 4. I don't know if I saw the forward. I saw the not a in a blue clothes.
Yes, that's right. And short pants.
He's not a black man.
Short pants and
I know that is not a black man.
No. Hey, Matt say how is an old video.
old video.
How you know that, man?
Old video. So it means that all the time Chucks in Antigua, the Chucks stick walking into the bathroom?
It look like the China Friendship Hospital is an old hospital too.
Well, it is in the China Friendship Hospital, and it's a new hospital.
He knows he's a damn fool. He had to come out in the public and make himself known to the world that he's a damn fool.
But Senior Minister, I mean, these guys have spent, as you know, over the past 20 years trying to call everybody criminal. Trying to, bring down everybody.
Yeah, they're selling passports.
Selling
to
this.
crooks and criminals. Only to find which crooks and criminal Dominica was ever caught in the hanky-panky business.
You understand? Now,
who Al Jazeera caught in a hanky-panky criminal story?
The leader of the opposition and his gang.
Sell passport.
Yes.
Well, I don't. Maybe even got paid for it because the deal was to get. It's a deal. I give you money and you give me passport when you win.
Yes. 28 days.
David Bruni get his own.
28 days.
Al Jazeera. You understand me, my brother?
Yes, loud and clear.
So this Chokshi thing, my boy, I think the debate now has to shift now.
Yes.
From Chokshi. And then, Chokshi will have his day in court. You see, he playing sick, nobody heard him. We're not saying he's not sick.
Right.
Let the process take its place. We're not interfering as a government.
Right.
But when it appears, when it's been so chested that the opposition have special interest in that case.
Yes.
When we see themselves contradicting themselves, because Matt is part of the cabal.
That's right.
You understand? And when we have evidence before us that the United Workers' Party appears to be fighting over Chokshi, withholding information from one another, crooking one another, then you ask yourself, my brother, what is going on? And I believe it's time to launch an investigation to Lennox Linton and the United Workers' Party to find out what is the involvement in the Chokshi matter.
I agree.
Lennox has never been a humanitarian all his life, not even to children.
Yeah, the man is...
Lennox has not been sympathetic to elderly people. He called them greedy. Lennox have no sympathy for young people. He called them prostitutes, my brother.
That's right.
Lennox have no sympathy for you because he called them criminals. He exposed them to the international community as criminals. These young people.
Asking for guns and all whatever this
is greedy, my brother. He asked that we allow our elderly people to sleep on the dirt floor because he opposed the housing revolution. Simon, this man, after Hurricane Maria, with our farmers who lost 100% of their holdings.
Yes.
And Roosevelt Carrick went to the World Bank and secured a money, loan, and grant for the farmers. The United Workers' Party wrote to the World Bank and tell the World Bank to stop.
Yes.
To stop the assistance to the farmers.
That's right.
And the families and the children. That is Lennox Linton for you. Who said to you, Simeon, that is not when I see you, I just don't like people, I don't smile for people.
Yeah, not because you see me and you think I'm on the TV to think I'm your friend or you know me, I know you.
You're feeling sorry for Chokshi, a man you don't know.
A man you don't know.
You have not felt you jam a little boy in my hole. You never felt sorry for him.
No.
You never felt sorry for his family.
No.
A man fall off your roof. You never felt sorry for him. You never felt sorry for his family. All of a sudden, your heart melting like butter towards Chokshi.
Yes.
An international criminal, wanted by Interpol, wanted by the Indian government, one of the most powerful countries in the world. And you prepare to deny and to defy these powerful organizations and countries to protect a criminal called Chokshi. That you want to tell the Prime Minister to take out the man in jail, let the man go. Protecting and defending Chokshi, my brother.
Yes.
That making sense to you, Simeon?
It's not making no sense to me at all.
It's not making to me. It's not making to me. They're contradicting. Matt said, take it easy, don't send the man go yet. Lennox said, let go the man. Lofty said, Lennox said he want to meet the family. Lofty said, I'm not telling you if I meet the family yet. What is going on?
And Lofty said you want him to go to the US because he have protection there.
Lofty, if Lofty belly is full, Lofty and nobody else to eat. So as far as Lofty concerned, he can go where he wants.
Princess Doctor say the doctors from the United States already sent down all the paperwork already, everything done.
Which United States? What is wrong with this guy? Well, maybe because I said he'll reach India faster, so maybe we should. So, Lofty view.
Hey, Let me tell you something.
If you want to go to the Americas, well, let's see how long he'll survive there.
Anyway, Senior Minister, one thing that proves...
Sorry, I didn't intend to be that wrong. But,
no, I wanted to just tell you, one thing though is, these fellas there, they just say things in their mouth, but they don't stand for nothing at all, you know.
Boy, is a bunch of hungry, lazy, money hungerers. That is what they are.
Yes.
And they will do anything, including selling their children and selling their parents for money. Selling them, but they have already sold their country.
Yes.
They have already attempted to sell the country.
That's right.
For a few pennies, a few dollars, Simeon. That is their nature, and we all know Matt has no scruples.
No, I tell you, brother.
Matt will take money from the vagrants in Roseau if he gets an opportunity to. That is Matt for you.
Yes, I.
Lofty will probably do the same thing. I mean, Lennox have a certain amount of pride. He wouldn't take it from the vagrants, but he will take it.
Yeah, $5 and they're $10.
From the criminal who he wanted to sell the passport to. You hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Let's hear that thing unfold, but I call it for an inquiry into the United Workers' Party. Lawyers making their money, lawyers making their money, so I don't think you can go after the lawyers except, not every lawyer. Some lawyers don't worry where the money come out and how they make it.
Right.
You know, so the lawyers doing what they have to do.
But those that...
but there's an ethical and moral responsibility on behalf of everybody, no matter what profession you're in. You have an ethical and a moral responsibility to the world, including lawyers. Yes, you have to defend your client.
Yes.
But when the matter is indefensible, you cannot defend the indefensible.
Exactly.
You hear me?
Yep.
So to bet Dali in there with a Choksi man, you know the man record. You know what the issue is. And to be stalling because really and truly, I mean, let the thing roll, guys. So let Mr. roll and let it cut this side quickly and bring the man to court. It's not we that stopping the matter from going to court.
No, we're not stopping it.
We're not stopping the matter from going to court. It's they that holding the man here. So tell Matt to tell the lawyers of his lawyer friends to let us, if he wants. Well, no, it's not Matt. It's Linton that wants Choksi out. Matt wants him in.
Yeah, Matt wants him to stay there. He don't want to rush him.
Stay there. Linton wants him to go back and take it.
Matt look like he don't collect it.
Boy, 11 o'clock, let's go and catch some sleep. We have a long day tomorrow.
Yes, brother.
We have a country to build. You know, we have housing to do in the hurricane season.
Indeed.
We have to focus on how we're going to approach and how we're going to work for this hurricane season.
Yes.
We have our airport to build. You know, it's not going to be an easy project. We have already said that.
Right.
So there's enough work for people like me and you to do. Matane has done no work.
Yes.
They don't intend to do no work, except every time they see what they think is a free money.
Yes.
To jump on it and to sell their country for a few pieces of silver.
That's all.
So, Simo.
Yes, sir. Take care. Thank you.
And to your listeners, sorry, like I say again, for holding up your line. I know you wanted to go home a long time.
That's not a problem, Senior Minister. Whenever you on, I don't want to go home again.
Thank you, Senior. Thank you very much. Clarence, good night and drive safely. Let me wish all Dominicans who are up at this time, whether here or overseas, let me wish you all a blessed night. And let me wish you guys a great day tomorrow. To the family of Patrick John, Desiree worked together a long time at Ross, and I know personally and Aisha. And I want to extend our deep sympathies, that of my wife, my children, my family, and the constituency, a Labour combatant, no matter what happened, but he will always be remembered as the first Prime Minister of Dominica under the Labour Party government.
That's right.
He will be a Labourite. They can say what they want. I mean, it was Rosie when Patrick was there languishing under the United Workers' Party. It was Rosie who said that you cannot see one of our own cleaning the gutters. That was when he was in charge of garbage.
Yes, so I remember that. Yes, solid waste. Yes, solid waste. Yeah, they made him responsible for that.
Who brought Patrick back into the fold of the Dominican Labour Party. Because Rosie said to us that there is no way that he will see a man who has made a contribution in spite of his transgression will bring him back to the fold of the party. And Patrick came back to the fold of the party, became our general secretary, and was indoctrinated into the Dominican Labour Party. So, and that will always be part of Patrick John history. Nobody can erase that part of Patrick John history.
Yes.
And as Labourite, he's a fallen soldier.
Yes.
A fallen Labour soldier.
Yes.
Many Labourites have come and gone and come and come and gone. So what's wrong with Patrick if he can come and go?
Right.
But we have to embrace him for what he was, for the platform that he laid on which we build it. He made his contribution like everybody else.
And Senior Minister, prior to his death, I mean, we know that he had his own personal struggles, but you're the part of the cabinet, and you all came together and took a decision that obviously, to provide some benefit, not just for him, but for the former Prime Minister, something I was very grateful for.
If we didn't want practical benefit, we didn't have to do it. We were not obligated to doing it.
Right.
It's not part of the Constitution, it's not part of any law what we did.
Yes.
But based on a policy position taken by Roosevelt Skerrit and Dominican Labour Party, we decided that we cannot treat as bad as Edison James was.
Yes.
You know, as much of the trouble and problem that he put this country in. Our government, that is what you call a loving, a caring, and a sensitive government. To recognize people who have made contribution, especially, well, everybody, but those who have made a contribution at that level, that they should be recognized for the contribution, because they go down in history as a former Prime Minister of Dominica.
Yes.
So I really want to express my condolences to the family and to wish them well and hope that God will continue to protect them and give them the strength that they require to go through this. Because Patrick was an ordinary man. He didn't be a former Prime Minister.
I know.
You understand?
Yes,
and so the pain and the number of people from all over the world who will be calling in, and every time somebody call you and they'll make you cry and so it's a very miserable period for them having to go through this.
Yes.
And we're asking God to strengthen them, that they'll be able to bear it and see it through the end. And to Sonia too.
Yes.
We need to, I'm not even going into this celebration that the big party WP had when Sonia's son died. I'm not going to that tonight. That will take another 3 hours. You'll never get home tonight, Simeon.
I know.
Because I have my own views on that matter.
Yes.
But I don't want to touch it. I may have an opportunity sometime later to deal with the matter.
Right.
I'm not going to touch that tonight. But again, just to express my condolences and sympathies to Sonia on the passing of her son. Thank you, Simo.
Thank you again.
Good night. God bless you all.
All right. Bless you too, Senior Minister. Thank you for joining us there and ending us. Yes, Clarence.
Somebody just sent me another video. So now I have 5 or 6 video. Look, Choksi walking, passing through the nurse, exchanging pleasantry with a nurse who is wearing a pants uniform with a pants and her like a shirt.
You have to send me those videos there, Clarence, so I can
so
hang them up.
Another video, Choksi walking and exchanging pleasantry.
So I can put them up for the viewers for our next program. So Matt Peltier and them, when they're talking about
video, and that is the China Friendship Hospital looking so nice on video.
We'll let them go and see it for themselves.
Oh my God.
Listeners, that's where we come to our end. Clarence, always a pleasure having you, my brother.
Yeah.
Your closing remarks.
All I can say, Simeon, is good night. And I will say this, I hold no brief for nobody on the Choksi matter.
Yes, sir.
No brief.
Yes, sir.
For nobody. Nobody can come and tell me to speak this way or not that way.
Right.
All I'm saying is that Choksi is a fugitive.
Right.
He has taken over $2 billion US dollars from a bank, poor people's money in India. And I know India have a lot of poverty. So when you take people's money, not only that, he sold fake diamonds to a lot of people in India, take their money. And he has this money hidden in foreign banks. And now he is galvanizing around with the money. I think Choksi has to go back to India to answer his charges so that India can have the opportunity to have a restitution order to get that money wherever Choksi deposit that money to bring it back to India.
Yes, sir.
That is my view. The longer Choksi stay out of India, the more money India going to spend, the more lawyers going to take the money from him, the more his people going to pay people to keep Choksi away out of India. So, and the less money the poor people of India will get. So the fact of the matter, the quicker India can lay its hand on Choksi to get the money wherever Choksi has it, the better for India. And anybody who is against that is an enemy of justice. Yes, he has to face his right. Yes, he has to go to court. Yes, Dominic, I will respect his legal rights. And I will go for it. Yes, but all those machinations to delay the process, that is what is happening there. He's sick. He's bleeding in his brain. How can a lawyer go, are you a doctor?
Well,
How can a lawyer go to this thing and say on newspaper that he's bleeding in his brain? All this thing is machinations to keep Choksi in Dominica, to prevent him from going to answer his charges, so that the government of India, the government and people of India will have to know where those monies are hidden, and then they can do a restitution order to bring back the people's money back into India. This is what I want to see.
Yes,
this is why I am talking like this.
Yes,
this is not Choksi. How Choksi get to Dominica is a total different issue.
But in the meantime,
you want to Choksi in Dominica.
Faces justice.
India has every single right under the sun to do everything possible while Choksi in Dominica to take him back into India.
Yes,
and
sir.
I support that. Just like I would support the US, just like I would support Iran, just like I would support Britain. You have a major criminal on the run. You have every right to take this person, to go after this person.
Yes,
every right under the sun.
Amen, Clarence. All right, dear, my brother, but you get it from my brother Clarence. He couldn't have said it. You know, Clarence says he's very passionate about the things that he said. But we got to make our way out of here. As you know, discussion is always on the telephones are still going, but we have to stay there midnight. We have a long day ahead of us tomorrow. Thank you again to all of you. Mommy, I know you called. I couldn't put you on, but we'll pick you up on another program. In the meantime, I want to say a special thank you to all of you calling, Senior Minister, Senior Council Anthony Asif, and a special thank you to Don and all the other folks who call in, Lloyd, and the many other callers. And those of you who do not call but you listen, I want to thank you all for listening. And to all folks who join us on the Kyrie FM Facebook page, yes, I want to thank you all for joining us. We'll always remember Loftus Durand Woods. What is it again?
Family members on the ground. Any comments there from family members on the ground? No?
But I will keep that one to my chest for now.
Okay.
All right. Yes, all right. He holding that one to his chest. So we want to know, what is it Loftus Durand is holding to his chest, and what is it that he didn't want the public to know. In the meantime, have a safe rest tonight, my friends. It's always a pleasure doing this program for you. Let's continue to pray for our political leader and for our cabinet ministers and every single person who's on the front line. And let's pray for God's guidance over this hurricane season. As you know, yes, we are still in the hurricane season. In the meantime, my name is Simeon Albert saying good night to you. God bless you. And do have a wonderful night rest. I leave you with none other than O'Donnell.
Hey, give him Donald, I wondering who shot Donald, I wondering who shot who. Give them galang dang dang, galang dang dang. Boy, when you in a game, the rules remain the same. One team to lose, one team to win. If ever you lose, you go home and dress your bruise. Come back again in another game. Hey, O'Donnell, you remind me of he. O'Donnell, swear you both are family. When you storm the capital building, then inside your bunker hiding, it's the same thing Uncle would do. When you inside violence, then claim your innocence, it's the same thing Uncle would do. Hey, O'Donnell, you brought back so much memory. O'Donnell, it's like you're patterning on we. Same thing Uncle would do. When you block and burn it up, same thing Uncle would do. When you push and mash it up, same thing Uncle would do. Lord, Donald, I want to know who